got a lot of reading to do. I'm going to make you help me reading some things.
Yeah.
Put on my do not disturb.
Here we go. We are live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you all doing today on this fine day? Oh, look at our Facebook memory, honey.
Oh, nice.
We're standing in front of that eagle monument
in
the face
Minneapolis
in Minneapolis in the Cesar Chavez.
Yep.
And interestingly, today's Eagle Day.
Oh.
In Lizard Week.
Yes.
So, it's a good day. It's a good day. It's a very good day. Hey, everybody. Give me just one more second till I get to our page. Sorry for that little detour into memory lane. Aha.
We are live.
Standing in front of that. I found us. You know what that means? Okay. Now that I got my monitor ready to go. And the sound is good, Robert?
Yep.
We can start the music.
All right, here we go.
I'm going to try and find us. Hey, everybody. Jeez, that was really fast.
Yeah, those non-copyrighted music is very short. They're only 2.5 minutes long.
Man, can y'all help me by inviting your friends into the show? Because I get a chance to invite many of mine.
Yeah, we need to invite people in, so we're starting kind of early tonight. So
I know, but I got a lot of material, guys.
Yeah.
I have too much material. Because if you've been listening to the show on A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp,
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
here on 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves, then you know I've been talking about my interviews that I did with Wesley Clark Jr. a year ago, the son of retired four-star General Wesley Clark, who ran for president in 2003, was it, Duke?
Oh, I can't remember which year it was.
I think I'm right about that. If I'm incorrect, please let me know in the comments of our show, and hopefully, or send me an email. I don't always get to see all the comments of our show, especially the really long ones. A lot to go back and rewatch 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
But guys, I have had a very long interview that I played over the last two shows called Freaked the F Out Part 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you can believe it, there are 4 more pieces of that call.
Yeah.
Because as you heard at the very last piece of the phone call when he was at the FBI office, allegedly waiting outside, and he was asking them, "Will you please arrest me? I'm the son of the 4-star general." Well, he's retired. My name is Wes K. Clark, and there's a Russian spy operation. I'm the victim of a Russian, what did he say? A Russian blackmail operation?
Yep.
And he was asking to be arrested and taken into custody for protection. And he said he couldn't go home. All of that you heard? Well, he did call me back. So I went back through my recordings and he called me back again. And it was weird because I told you that he had to tell me, like, my phone's going to die. I've got 6% left. So I'm thinking, I don't know what happened to Wes now. And I don't know, did he get arrested or not? Or was he able to get help or not? You know, and he really wanted me to believe that he was doing everything he could to report the all of the people around him who I was telling him were involved in this Kathleen Bennett crime, and who, as he was seeing the evidence before him, he was realizing were involved in something much bigger that he called a Russian blackmail operation.
Yeah.
Are Russians really involved? You know, Christina Hollenbeck certainly seems like she might be one of those people. He's going to talk about her in one of these clips that you're going to hear. So there is, again, 4 more clips I am going to play for you today of Wes Clark Jr. talking to me about him trying to report all of this to the FBI on June 16, 2017.
Correct.
Which was, you know, after Standing Rock had occurred, and it was around the time that the Flint camp was going on. I want to kind of set things up for you so that you know what is going on in these calls. But first, I want to delve deeper into what I don't know, because after I listened back to this call from last year and realized that Nexus is connected to Wesley Clark Sr., the general, and that Wes knew that, and that Wes knew that his dad spoke there, and that Menape was there, and failed to mention all of these connections to me, I started to wonder more and more about the general's involvement, especially since there was a meeting on November 20th at Wes Jr.'s house, which I think is actually owned by his father, the general, in Los Angeles. And the general was there meeting up with Sedef Buyaktaman and the other Turkish Forum publisher, Kaya Alep Buyaktaman, both of whom are listed in WikiLeaks of Borat's box. And again, if people don't know what that is, WikiLeaks is the online leaking site run by Julian Assange, who is also being looked at right now
Yeah.
in regard with the Mueller probe on the interference by Russia in the 2016 elections. Okay. And so Julian Assange's WikiLeaks had published a bunch of emails and information that went to Borat's email box. Borat is the son-in-law of the dictator of Turkey, Erdogan. And incidentally, Sedef's dad runs a publication that is pro-Erdogan, and so does Sedef. That's what she was doing, at least up until 2015, 2016, when she was the director of communication for that basically Turkish propaganda publication run by her and her dad. I showed you how they bought a submarine together and how, for some reason, these two people were having this little rendezvous, which West does not appear to be in the pictures, but definitely is there, and so is his wife. So I started wondering, how many other things are these people hiding? What else is General Wes Clark hiding? And I figured we could get educated about him a little bit more. We could stand to know a little bit more about his past. So, how did Wes Clark, General Wesley Clark, retired General Wesley Clark Sr., end up working with Nexus people that are, and working with his son on this operation that ended up getting a elderly woman kidnapped, put her in an early grave, and put another indigenous woman in jail for 6 months? How did the general get wrapped up in all of that? And I went all the way back to 2012 and found out that Wes Clark Sr.'s life kind of took a sharp turn.
Yeah.
After he was retired, because he went from a 4-star general to a reality TV punchline. And I'm about to go into this long article. I do want to share with you that a lot of what we're going to be showing you tonight is from recordings that I did last year with the general. So when you will be hearing these clips, remember that in context. It's not something that just got recorded yesterday. And what Wes Clark Jr. is talking about in those recordings pertains to shows that we were talking about, things that we were talking about last year, not in the present. And also, I'm going to be showing connections and information from last year that was sent to me by our listeners and viewers that I had never had the opportunity to, or connections to use on our show before today. So thank you very much for all of the information and the emails and the research and the work that you all out there do. How do folks get a hold of us and let us know what they want us to talk about on the show?
We're telling you the truth. We said that we're going to use your stuff. We don't get to it all the time right away, but here we are pulling up stuff that was sent to us a year ago.
Yeah. And
there's many ways to send us things. And one is, if you look at the bottom of your screen, we have a call-in line, which is basically a message line for us. It's 701-566-0917. Again, it's 701-566-0917. Give us a call. We may use it on the air. You can talk up to 3 minutes. Another way that's pretty efficient is just sending us email. Cindy at kpppfm.com, or me, Duke, at kpppfm.com. You can also tweet us at media_PPP, and you can follow us on Facebook at 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead, the People's Press Project of Mexi-Can, and we also have the kpppfm.com website. kpppfm.com. This is where we store all of our podcasts, when we do convert them to audio. Sometimes we use them on the air here locally at 88.1 FM. Sometimes we don't. And then we've been putting our Facebook Live streams up on YouTube because it's a little bit more solid platform. And so you can watch all of our shows there, and they're easy to find. There's the titles. And in each one of those shows, you can actually leave comments, or you can go to the comment section. There's a little tab you can click and just send us a comment, and people have done that too. And email is good because you can do attachments. You can do that in the Facebook Messenger too. So there's many ways to get hold of us. And also, just to remind you, we are a low power FM non-commercial radio station, and we have a reach in the Fargo Moorhead community, Fargo, West Fargo, Dilworth, and Moorhead. And we reach about potentially over 220,000 people. Our reach pretty much covers the whole city, and we're the largest metropolitan area between Minneapolis and Spokane, Washington. And since we're a nonprofit, we rely on donations. We've written some grants. We've gotten some underwriting funding for our station. If you want to underwrite a message, you can just go to underwriting and see our rates. It's basically not advertising, but it's a way to give a gift to the nonprofit and they can mention it on the air. And so we also have a donation link where you can actually click and donate to us, and it's all tax deductible because we are a legitimate 501c3 organization. Mm-hmm. So many ways to get hold of us and many things you can do to help us, and we do really appreciate all the people who have written in, given us tips, given us information, given us videos, given us articles and opinions and insight. So we do really appreciate all that. And so please keep it coming. Like Cindy said, we may not get to it right away. An example today, we're getting into some of the stuff that was sent over a year ago, and we're using that information now. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Of course, it's just me and you and the small crew, plus a couple of interns that we get here and there. We were really lucky to have our intern this summer. We don't usually have summer interns. Mm-hmm. Then maybe it's something that we will be doing more often. It's always fun to interact with the local students and to try and teach them how to do media justice work here in the Fargo-Moorhead region. We're really proud of the work that we've been doing here on KPPPLP to expose everything that happened at Standing Rock and what is happening right now within movements and campaigns that should and we thought were being led by Indigenous people or people of color, as respectively they should be. But we found that in fact, what happened at Standing Rock was co-opted by rich, wealthy, white people with an agenda and with ties to oil production. Mm-hmm. And it's really disturbing that the General Wesley Clark is involved in all of this, and that his son is involved, and to the degree that they're involved. So I looked back into his history and found out, I tried to look at how did he get here. And this is from an article that I found online on Wired. And here he is as the host of a reality TV show called Stars Earn Stripes. It's a survivor-style show that puts celebrities through the rigor of fake combat. And I couldn't, for the life of me, find the clip or the opening of the show online so that you could see it and experience it. This is a screen capture of it that you're seeing on our screen right now. But I did find this interview where he is talking about the show and why he's doing it. Here's a little clip from that Stars Earns Stripes YouTube.
Stars Earn Stripes?
Wes Clark, Stars Earn Stripes.
General?
Yeah. Retired general.
Yeah, but still, it's the man.
Still get to carry the rank.
That's right. And
Are you you're not a contestant?
No, ma'am.
What is your position?
I'm not a contestant. I'm a co-host. Samantha and I are co-hosting.
You were a contestant in life.
Yes, exactly.
I've already
earned your stripes. Yeah.
The general's
I've done my
gone through
contestant.
this in real life.
Been there, done it, got the T-shirt to prove it.
When you signed on to this, I'm sure authenticity was a huge concern for you. How did you, both of you frankly, ensure that this would authentically reflect the kind of depth and mental training that?
Well, I asked a lot of questions, and as soon as I got on set, I looked at things, I talked to people, I went around, I looked at the weapons, I looked at the ranges, I asked about the scenarios, I talked to everybody I could talk to. Not only authenticity, but also safety. Because, for as much as we do in the military, if you ever lose a soldier in training, just never, ever forgive yourself. And it's happened. It happens. So I didn't want our show marred by some terrible accident that could be prevented. So we looked at this very carefully. That was what I wanted to do before it got started.
the show is a live fire exercise.
Oh, absolutely.
It is. What's very interesting about this show is that clearly I'm grateful that the network was able to convince General Clark to be a co-host on the show, because not only does it give the authenticity and the credibility, but just having his expertise on set as really an on-set consultant. Even though he didn't sign up to be that, he really ended up being that because that's his nature. And every single day when we were talking through the missions or in the field ready to begin a mission, he would go through step by step. He would make sure that it was as authentic as possible, and also that, as he said, that the safety was paramount, as of course was very important and the utmost importance to our producers as well.
So maybe that's what his new gig is, being a consultant, being a, but he obviously didn't care about Kathleen Bennett's mom, Mary Trujillo. And this frail woman with dementia was put into an early grave because of the veterans stand. Mercenary Bill Runningfisher, who lied, and Mulaney Stoneman, who helped kidnap her, and Christina Hollenbeck. And these were the people that likely were helping to fund not only the operation out at Standing Rock, but also TYT, according to Wes Clark Jr. himself. And this is an excerpt from this article, which gives us a little glimpse into Wes Clark Sr.'s background. This, again, is from the Wired article I found online. It says, it seems like a bewildering career decision for a man who finished in his first in his West Point class and became a Rhodes Scholar. But ever since retiring, Clark's made a second career out of pimping his first. He's shilling for dubious tech products before turning himself into a product. That is, attempting to become president of the United States within 3 years of getting fired from his job running NATO's Kosovo war. Along the way, he inadvertently bolstered the case of his many military critics who considered him a clown. Oh, and according to one of his subordinates, he came close to starting World War III. I really didn't know a lot about General Wesley Clark's career, so this is kind of informative for me because I the only context in which I'd ever heard him talked about was as a hero, and having to do with the Kosovo War, basically.
Yeah.
But there are conflicting views on what kind of a general he was, and whether or not he really is an American hero. Here is more that I found in this article.
Yeah.
So almost as soon as Clark took his uniform off in the year 2000, he began lending his reputation. It's really important. Somebody pimping themselves out.
Yep.
And this is the opinion of this writer. Pimping himself out, but he was lending his reputation to prospective military tech. While lots of officers became defense contractor shills, Clark's favored products tended toward the bizarre or the useless. One company, Wavecrest Laboratories, made an electric bike that General Clark pitched as a vehicle for soldiers, quote, fighting in tight alleys in urban areas. He also joined the board of a company called Axiom, which was a database company that basically sells people's addresses and phone numbers to telemarketers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of these things are kind of sketch, but most people who, like me, only know of General Wesley Clark, 4-star General Wesley Clark that had to do with the Kosovo War and was a war hero. That's all we know. And so when you see a man like that lending his name to a startup and saying, invest in this because I'm going to invest in it. I'm on the board. I'm fronting this. Well, yeah, of course it makes people think it's legitimate.
Yeah, it gives it credibility,
In the same way that his son gave credibility to the operation that led to the jailing of an innocent Lakota woman, Kathleen Bennett, which this station and our reporting helped to exonerate, along with the statements of the many witnesses that were prepared to come and testify in court. Josh Long and Ren Brown were the first two witnesses that came to us with that story, and we were able to prove conclusively that not only was the Bill Runningfisher story about elder abuse and finding Mary Trujillo naked and covered in excrement and urine a complete fabrication, but that she was set up by a whole host of people who filed false police reports to Morton County and got an innocent woman arrested and left in a jail for 6 months before we were able to free her. How did this general get involved in all that?
Exactly.
Maybe he was falling on hard times. I don't know. It also says here that when he did his 2004, it was 2004, honey, his campaign for president.
Okay. All right, there we go.
Democrats loved the guy, not for who he was, because he had never held a public elected office. And Kosovo was not a war that the public really cared about. So it wasn't for those two things. But instead, he was the rare general who was openly democratic,
Yeah.
especially post 9/11. So people just kind of migrated toward that image. But when General Clark, entered the primaries, his greenness quickly showed. Not only was his announcement awkward, his first press conference memorably featured a beleaguered General Clark wailing to an aide, "Mary, help!" Not something you want, Chief, in your selling points ad with your military experience. But it wasn't just his political inexperience that kind of doomed his campaign. Clark seemed to believe that the presidency belonged to him as a matter of rank.
Oh, yeah.
It's my turn. He kind of felt that. And sadly, he said of John Kerry and his Vietnam experience right before the New Hampshire primary, when he was asked a question about his rival, "With all due respect," General Clark said, "he's a lieutenant and I'm a general." The lieutenant, John Kerry, handily trounced him in the early voting. So much for that.
Yep.
And of course, when it came to vitriol, Clark attracted a lot from his key constituency, in fact, the military.
Yeah.
So he didn't even do well with his base. Almost as soon as he announced his candidacy, Army General Hugh Shelton criticized him, saying that in a very rare public remark, during his own retirement, he said he derided Clark for unspecified integrity and character issues and said that he wouldn't vote for his fellow general. And their problems stemmed from the war in Kosovo that Clark and few others thought covered him in glory. So in the memoir that General Shelton published in 2010, Clark was portrayed as a blithering idiot who happened to be a Rhodes Scholar and a West Point valedictorian. Most accounts of the Kosovo War described Clark's plan to push the Serbs out of the beleaguered ethnic Albanian province as a jumble of disconnected, escalating airstrikes lacking in strategic vision. One monograph about the 78-day war was titled "Winning Ugly." General Shelton's beef was that Clark's initial plan, within its random and haphazard bombing runs, was even worse. Quote, "A few days into the war, it became clear to me that General Clark had developed a very weak battle plan, one without a strategic plan and corresponding targets," General Shelton wrote. In the chairman's telling, he had to fax Clark a better plan. The same one that would be criticized for its incoherence and left it for the telegenic Clark to, quote, bring well in front of the cameras. Privately, General Shelton seethed that Clark was absolutely in it for whatever was best for Wes. And that's a direct quote. Absolutely in it for whatever was best for Wes. Maybe the apple doesn't fall so far from the tree.
Exactly.
Because it seems to me like Wes Jr. was definitely in this for himself. He didn't care about the casualties that he left in his wake at Standing Rock. And it was shocking for me to hear the general talking about safety on the set, authenticity, and making sure that no soldier got left behind. If you lose a soldier, it's like it haunts you. It's the worst thing that could happen. Well, you were very proud of your son, according to Kaya Alep's, Sadef Buyakatan Man's dad, or according to their own Facebook post about Wes Wes's dad, the general, and Kaya meeting and talking about the Standing Rock operation, that he was very proud of his son going out there. Were you proud of him leaving all of those veterans behind and putting an innocent Lakota woman in jail? Were you proud of that, General Clark? Were you proud of the fact that he put an elderly woman with dementia in an early grave? How's that for leaving someone behind? And not only did he leave these women behind, he tried to cover up his crime. He tried to cover up for all of the people that lied and continued to lie and doubled down on their lie even when they were caught. That is the most cowardly thing that I can imagine the son of a general doing. Worse, and continuing here from the article,
all right.
as the Russians ultimately pulled their Serbian proxies back from Kosovo, they landed their own troops in Pristina Airport in the heart of the province. It was a provocative move. The Russian military line might demarcate a partition of Kosovo, one that risked the conflict between NATO and Russia that the Cold War successfully escaped. Clark ordered his man on the ground, British Lieutenant General Sir Mike Jackson, to block the Russian access to the airport runways. Sir Jackson recounted in his 2007 memoir, quote, "I'm not starting World War III for you." Close quote. General Clark called the dispute into Washington, where General Sheldon backed Jackson. Lieutenant General Sir Mike Jackson, not Clark. And within weeks of running a successful war, General Clark, was fired.
Wow.
So Clark's war and his political future down the tubes, but his record of putting his foot in his mouth continued. In 2008, he contended on cable news that the Saudis were behind the Sunni awakening in Iraq in the Anbar province. Wading back into political waters, Clark made a tasteless argument about 2000 GOP nominee and war hero John McCain.
Oh.
Just like President Trump.
Yeah, I see.
Do you remember how horrible, and, this is a day after the passing that we're doing this report, after the passing of John McCain, who is and was a war hero.
Yeah.
When both of these men, General Clark and now President Trump, made derisive comments about one of America's most honored heroes, John McCain. And as you know, Trump was not invited to the funeral because of the comments and the, he had a very ugly feud with Trump from when he was a candidate and ongoing through his presidency. Trump never backed down on his statements. I wonder if General Clark ever did, but it cost him. Even back then in 2008 when John McCain was a GOP nominee, and Clark said this: "I don't think riding in a fighter plane and getting shot down is a qualification to be president."
Oh, man.
Can you believe that?
That's pretty cold.
That was almost as bad as what Trump said. I mean, wasn't it what...
And in the prisoners of war, I mean, my whole, early life during the Vietnam War, the prisoners of war was a pretty devastating thing that people were held, and McCain was a prisoner of war for a long time. So when someone would come home alive, it was like a hero's welcome because, they did the ultimate in these wars. I'm not a really big military supporter or anything, but, it was in my face. I had to follow it. It influenced me a lot. There was a draft where, people would get taken away from their homes and put in the war, and they'd end up dying or they'd end up captured and they might never come home, and so McCain, and, that's part of his history from the military side. So that sort of disrespect is surprising, and I didn't know that General Clark made about the same message that Trump made just, in the past couple of years. It's kind of amazing. It's like it's a talking point written down somewhere.
It's ugly.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I was never very national. I don't like equating the support the veterans with the tone deaf racist nationalism that you hear coming from Trump.
Yeah.
Where he, criticizes black men kneeling because of police brutality at games, and says that that is a disrespect to our military and our police, etc. I don't think those two things are synonymous, but there is something very ugly about the attacks on McCain. McCain, if you will recall, was the man who had the honorability to himself that, and remember, both Melania and Donald Trump are birthers that said that Barack Obama was a Muslim born in Kenya. They were spreading these lies about President Obama. And during McCain's run for presidency, when a woman got up at one of his rallies and said she did not like Obama because he was a Muslim and he was not born here, McCain stopped her in her tracks and said, "No, ma'am," in the most respectful way he could. "No, ma'am, no, ma'am, that is not true," he said.
Yeah.
He corrected the record. That's honorable. He would not allow another candidate he was running against to be spoken about in that way. And I certainly hope, because there are people out there that don't really care about veterans. As a person, a paralegal that worked with a lot of veterans trying to get benefits through the Veterans Affairs, as well as, through Social Security, I can tell you that this country has done precious little to really help veterans when it counts. And frankly, Wesley Clark and his son, the general and his son, and this operation at Standing Rock that tricked people, that astroturfed an issue of indigenous sovereignty, really mocked veterans, mocked everything that veterans stand for. And I hope and pray that there is a full congressional investigation into both of these men and what they were up to out there. I don't think that the memory of John McCain deserves to have been sullied by both of these men, Trump and this man, General Wesley Clark, the way that it was. And it earned a rebuke at the time that he said it from Barack Obama, and it also ensured that Wes Clark Sr., the general, would have no role in either Obama administration. So this openly Democratic general put his foot in his mouth to the degree he was kind of shut out of one of the most important two-term presidencies for Democrats in the history of America. The first black man, right?
Yep.
It's kind of remarkable that somebody that has been known as such a Clinton-supporting, rah-rah, sis-boom-bah Democrat, both West general and son, were really shut out of the previous administration because of the mouth of this general, because of his faux pas. It goes on here to talk more about his background, and I'm going to read you a little bit more because I think it helps perhaps understand how he got here.
Yep.
Why he's here. To be fair, generals say uncouth things all the time. They shill for dubious military contractors all the time, and they're all open to charges of outsized ambition. Many of the criticisms that General Clark faced for being an egghead were also directed at David Petraeus, but unlike General Petraeus, General Clark didn't attract a lot of love from his soldiers. The late military gadfly David Hackworth described Clark as the perfumed prince who, quote, never paid his dues with the troops in the trenches and doesn't understand the nitty-gritty of war and what motivates warriors down at the bayonet level, close quote. Although, as Danger Room friend and Afghanistan veteran Richard Allen Smith pointed out, Clark did win the Silver Star in Vietnam for ordering his men to complete a counterattack after he had been shot 4 times by an AK-47. Clark doesn't have too many military proteges, which is a rarity for a senior general. A notable exception is Peter Chiarelli, who recently retired as the Army's Vice Chief of Staff. Among the things that Chiarelli learned from Clark was, quote, how not to handle himself, according to Greg Chaff and David Cloud's book on Generalship, The Fourth Star, which describes Clark as a, quote, brusque, highly intelligent man who's made lots of enemies during his long Army career. So, he may not have been the greatest leader of Ben, but, he also didn't have a great political career ahead of him, according to this article, because of his inability to handle himself.
Yeah, I see.
Handle his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good.
No.
So did you learn anything about the general that you didn't know, honey?
Well, I didn't know much about him at all. I vaguely remember him when he was running for the Democratic nomination. And I remember, do we really need another general in the White House? I mean, I think the last one was Eisenhower, And it's like, no, again, I'm not a really big supporter of military. And, so it just kind of, I listened to him, I watched him and didn't think much. And it makes sense, the things you're reading right now, it makes sense of why he disappeared out of that sort of political life. And I went into this other privatized life stuff that he was doing. But still someone who was influential in many things that he's doing, because he's given this a high status, when you have a 4-star general retired, they are still important people. They are usually consulted with in many military issues that go on in current times. So they're kind of on hold, and they have expertise that usually they're brought in for. So so when we met Wesley Clark Jr., it's like, who's the son of Wesley Clark Sr., 4-star general. It's like, okay, I remember that guy kind of, but it wasn't like I'm really impressed. It was like, okay, I do have a reference of this very political public person who was having influence in our society. So that was my base of connecting. So the stuff you just read is like, oh, okay, now I understand that some of the things that he did and the way he was living, that kind of pushed him out of that arena.
Mm-hmm. And he also pushed himself out of out of the arena of his family.
Yeah.
He got divorced after this, and he had it was kind of ugly, because Wes Clark Sr. Divorced his wife of 46 years and hooked up with a 30-year-old fashion designer.
Oh.
This is from the Daily Mail. He petitioned Gertrude, his wife, for general indignities, which in Arkansas, it stands for rudeness, vulgarity, unmerited reproach, haughtiness, abusive language, and settled hate. Settled hate? I don't know what the heck that is.
Me either.
It doesn't sound good. But this was a real blow. People close to her said that she was genuinely stunned by everything, and she's a very devout Catholic. She did not see this coming at all. She was very loyal to her husband, moving around with him from place to place around the world. 32 times this woman stuck it out with him. General Clark, who's, of course, the former Democratic presidential candidate at this point, when he gets divorced, he filed for divorce September 7 of 2012 in Pulaski County, Arkansas. This came 6 months after he met this woman, fashion executive Shauna May, at a conference in Carlsbad, California. The pair attended a symposium that was organized by Deepak Chopra. Clark was one of the guest speakers, just like he was at Nexus.
Yep.
Maybe that's where he goes to get dates. They were later photographed together the same month that the divorce petition, was filed, when they attended the Democratic Party convention in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh.
Him and the girlfriend. Here she is. And General Clark was understood to have moved out of his family's $560,000 home in Little Rock soon after filing divorce, and was staying with his girlfriend in New York, but was living in a rented condo in Little Rock when he was back home.
Wow.
So that also happened afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was some accusations that he was involved in some fraud.
Really?
Yeah. Check this out. China makes fraud accusations of Wesley Clark's ex-firm, so a firm that he was involved in. Retired U.S. Army general. This was from ABC News back in January 23rd of 2013. And it states that retired Army General Wesley K. Clark was the chairman and the public face of a Wall Street investment firm that rode a wave of interest in Chinese stock. And then it plunged on reports that much of the profits were hype, and many of the companies were outright frauds. So if you were questioning whether or not General Wesley Clark could get involved in something fishy, on something fraudulent, in something using his face and his name to attract investors, that would be completely fraudulent, the answer is yes. Now the China deals that Clark helped to promote at lavish parties. Oh, you mean like the Nexus parties?
Yeah, there
like
you
the
go.
parties in the Caymans that Christina Hollenbeck speaks at? Yeah, like those. Are facing scrutiny from the Securities and Exchange Commission as they try to account for the billions of dollars that were lost in dozens of suspicious stock offerings, which some officials believe represent collectively one of the largest financial scams made since Bernie Madoff.
Wow.
And General Wes Clark Sr. is the one involved. Authorities told ABC News that firms serving as middlemen who helped to promote the Chinese companies are now in the crosshairs. The auditors, the lawyers, the promoters, the brokers, those are all gatekeepers that we are focused on, former SEC Chairman Mary Shapiro said in an interview in December shortly before she stepped down. So Clark was declined repeated requests for an interview on the topic, and he did not give a statement. But Clark did say in a statement that he emailed to ABC News later that he was not aware of any investigation into the firm that he headed. Rodman and Renshaw was the name of that firm, or into any of his own actions while he was at that firm. So I don't know what happened to that, but the SEC did bring more than 40 civil cases against Chinese firms, and the former heads of those financial watchdogs, or former heads of financial watchdog agencies told ABC News that investigators were also looking into the conduct of the key players here in the U.S. that were promoting, which would be General Clark.
Yep.
Right? I also wanted to read to you here that in 2010, the firm rented out the Forbidden City in Beijing and invited former Secretary of State Colin Powell to speak, and also Lionel Richie to provide entertainment, as thousands of potential investors dined in tents on the historic grounds of the Forbidden City. Can you imagine how lavish these things are? Remember when they were talking about FOE, the Family Office Entertainment, or whatever it's called?
It's a new way of networking.
You can go to the most lavish, beautiful places and network with this ultra-rich people. Quote from the article here on ABC News. The Chinese love important people, and General Clark was certainly able to draw them to the conferences, said Drew Bernstein, the manager member of Marcus Bernstein and Pinchuk, one of the largest accounting firms servicing China-based companies trading in the U.S. Quote, almost everybody that spoke was connected somewhere to government and the military. Rodman did this because it leans, sorry, I can't speak words right now.
I guess.
It lent an air of credibility to everything that they were doing, just like Wesley Clark Jr. did to the people and the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock.
Wow.
So I wanted to also share with you how General Clark has been involved in the Paradise Papers. Did you know that? For those of you who don't know, there's been an investigation into rich people that were very rich and powerful people, including leaders of countries and princes and kings and stuff like that, to these offshore accounts where they were hiding their money.
Yeah.
And guess who appeared as being part of it? Why, none other than General Wesley Clark. Some of the notable figures named in the ICIJ as having offshore ties are former General Wesley Clark. If you scoot down, you'll find him there at the bottom. And there's a lot of people that were named in here. In this article, it's worth taking a look at. But the Paradise Papers represent corporate records spanning decades from a global offshore law firm called Appleby, a corporate service provider, Astera, which split from Appleby in 2016. More than a century old, Appleby helps its clients by setting up offshore entities such as shell companies and trusts, according to the ICIJ. And in a statement, Appleby said that its firm hadn't done anything illegal. But
Of course not.
also, these reports raise a number of questions about a number of Trump allies, billionaire buddies, and multinational corporations that have much to gain from the GOP's bill. Doggett said in a conference call, offshoring profits shifts the cost of the government to the people that aren't as fortunate as Mr. Ross and other billionaires. So many billionaires in the story surrounding Mr. General Clark.
Yeah.
The leak links Ross to a shipping company called Navigator Holdings, which has ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin's inner circle. According to the ICIJ, Ross's private equity firm was one of Applebee's biggest clients. And I believe General Clark was on the board of this Paradise Papers company.
Oh.
So, check out that article in CBS News. What do you think of this, Duke?
Well, it just gets worse. It's like, okay, ran for president, didn't win, dissed John McCain, then's involved in fraud in China, and then is also involved in some other fraud. It's like, you would think someone of that sort of high caliber, would really be spending a lot more time, really building his career. But it's like, how do they make money? It's like, I'm assuming that all the retired generals do have some sort of pension or some sort of payout, but that many of these people have gotten rich in the process of their public life, so it's like, seeing this, it doesn't surprise me, but it also surprised me that I haven't heard his name much. I really haven't heard his name much for a long time, So it's like it's something that, for him popping up, especially since we started doing the Kathleen Bennett case and Wesley Clark Jr. was at Standing Rock, that's when his name came up a lot more because people were referencing his son doing this work. So, of course, it would roll back into who's General Wesley Clark Sr., So it's like, that's when I became more and more familiar. But these things weren't focused on as much. I've heard about his divorce from his wife and those sorts of things, but these are the deeper things of where he's committing fraud.
So that gave me a lot clearer understanding of where the general comes from, what he was up to, and how possibly he could have ended up in a situation with his son getting troops out to Standing Rock.
Yeah, some military advice.
It's a little disconcerting, but I also want to let you know, General Clark was at Burning Man.
Yeah.
All the Standing Rock phonies went to Burning Man afterwards. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
Y'all remember the Dan and Nimkin and Chase Iron Eyes and Grandma Patricia and the Women Indigenous Media and Doug McLean. All of those people that went out there to hang out with the red lightning beetle, whatever it is. I'm going to show you, I'm going to remind you of how Burning Man was connected to Standing Rock and how people got really upset about these Native American leaders who went out there and basically sold ceremony to a bunch of drugged out, naked people that mock tradition of indigenous people and wear it and appropriate it as if it were their own in a very disrespectful way. And I don't know if this was part of how the Burning Man people got interested in supporting, Standing Rock, or what General Clark was doing there. Maybe it was just getting his yayas off with his girlfriend.
He's walking around in his silver
girlfriend.
Yeah, silver underwear, walking around nude. But,
who knows?
Yeah, but you say this, but here's an article to prove it. In the Daily Mail.
Tell them a little bit about
Has
it.
this Burning Man become so mainstream that even 4-star generals are attending? Former NATO Supreme Commander Wesley Clark spotted at festival. The retired general and former Democratic Party presidential nominee is amongst the 68,000 people enjoying the party in the desert. And this was in 2013. And, this year's Burning Man Festival in the remote Black Rock Desert in northern Nevada has been filled to capacity over the weekend, and one of the 68,000 people in attendance has been retired U.S. Army General and former Democratic Party presidential nominee Wesley Clark. General Wesley Clark. That's according to Electronic Frontier Foundation co-founder, Harvard Law School professor, and former Grateful Dead lyricist John Perry Barlow, who tweeted that he had spent time with Clark on Saturday afternoon.
The
Clark
founder of the Electronic Frontier
Foundation wrote for the Grateful Dead. I didn't know that.
Well, you know what? I just have to tell you that during the Kathleen Bennett debacle and everything that was going on, one of the contacts that I made to try to get help for Kathleen Bennett to tell the story of what was happening to people out at Standing Rock was an Electronic Frontier Foundation attorney.
Yeah.
And when I told him all of the crazy things that were happening to Kathleen Bennett because of the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock, mercenary Bill Runningfisher, and L'Oreal Blackshaw, and many of the people that were working directly with Wesley Clark, including Christina Hollenbeck, Mulaney Stoneman, and others, they didn't help, and they didn't seem like they believed what was going on.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me to see that Electronic Frontier Foundation was meeting with General Clark. Exactly. I called them.
Yeah, well, actually, they did more than that, too. They were studying, they had a form to fill out from Standing Rock. You know how when the phones were all affected? And they had those MZ catchers. They were doing blocking of cell phones.
What did they even do with any of that?
They surveyed, and they wanted proof that this had happened. Well, there's plenty of proof. You'd be there, and you'd look at your phone, the plane would fly over, the helicopter, your phone would get all scrambled. And all sorts of people were experiencing these things. And so they wanted to collect all that data and write a report about it, really to hold the government accountable for using these devices. After they did all that stuff, they came out and they said, nope, there was no evidence of this happening. I'm like, what? So having this person connected to Wesley Clark Sr., General Wesley Clark at Burning Man, 2 years before Standing Rock, that's an interesting connection. I hadn't made that one yet.
3
years.
3 years before Standing Rock.
Okay.
Let's go to the next slide here. Let me show you. This is from somebody on Twitter. Can you read that, honey?
I sure can. This is in 2013. General Wesley Clark, former Supreme Commander in Allied forces in Kosovo, attended Burning Man and hung out with Barlow.
He did indeed.
Who was a lyricist for the Grateful Dead.
Right. So there's another verification of that. And here next you see the John Perry Barlow guy from his Twitter account.
I spent much of the afternoon in conversation with Larry Harvey, mayor of Burning Man, and General Wesley Clark, who is here.
He says. And can you read below what the comments are? It says, why is General Wesley Clark at Burning Man?
Yeah,
and
that
then
was
somebody else says, could it possibly be that he's a free thinker with the soul of an artist, despite his 34-year career in the U.S. military? ? Yeah. And in the next set of tweets underneath that, they continue the conversation.
Yeah.
And he says, so the other person says back to J.P. Barlow, I hope that it's that,
Yeah.
rather than being a recon mission
Oh,
or figuring out how to harness it, meaning Burning Man,
yeah.
as a government experiment.
Yeah.
And someone else says, besides, that would be awful, quote, government experiment, close quote. What would hundreds of naked artists do for the government? Many of whom are drugged.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but a bunch of those burners ended up at Burning Man 3 years later. 3 years later, and there was drugs
Yeah.
and nakedness going on over at Standing Rock. So, who knows, right?
Yeah, right.
But there is verification that indeed they were there. And next I have verification that not only was he there, the general, but also his girlfriend. You want to read this one for me, honey?
Sure, the news spread far and wide. John Perry Barlow of the Grateful Dead and Electronic Frontier Foundation fame tweeted to the world that he spent much of the afternoon in conversation with Larry Harvey, mayor of Burning Man, and General Wesley Clark, who is here. Earlier today, my colleague Burners XXX commented on Clark's alleged presence. What Burners didn't know was that he was pushing that story. I was on the phone with John Perry Barlow verifying his tweet and heard round the world. It wasn't a prank, said Barlow directly to me just hours ago. It happened. Larry Harvey and I spent a perfectly lovely afternoon with him and his 30-year-old Mongolian MIT graduate girlfriend. John Perry Barlow's word is good enough for me. I have no doubts left about it. Wesley Clark, former Supreme Commander of NATO and a 2004 Democratic Party nominee for president, did indeed attend the Burning Man this year. But the question of whether or not General Clark, retired, really and truly attended Burning Man 2013 or not seems less interesting than asking what it means that he did.
Yeah.
I asked John Perry Barlow what he thought, what it meant, and his answer was short and sweet. What does it mean? That life is even weirder than you think. That Wesley Clark has no more or less reason to be there than anyone else. He liked it. For many people these days, one or two sound bites worth of information is enough on which to base an ironclad opinion. And a common view of the United States government being what it is amongst most artists and other people with a countercultural bent, the soundbite "Retired General Visits Burning Man" may be disconcerting, maybe a disconcerting one. In service of our own best interests, however, we should perhaps take a closer look. In the context of counterculture, the obvious connotation of Wesley Clark's status as a former NATO Supreme Commander who prosecuted the war in Kosovo is that the man is a hawk, a warhead, and therefore is an imperialist, I can't even say the word, evildoer with blood on his hands, who should not be trusted or tolerated.
And then it goes on to say that burners accept everyone. They're accepting people, and that maybe they should accept him and just welcome him in. No reason why not to. So I guess that's what actually happened out there.
Yeah.
They did accept him and welcome him in. Let me remind you who went out to sell ceremony. You're going to see a video clip here with Dan Nimkin, Chase Iron Eyes, Grandma Patricia. Don't forget that name. Put a pin in that name because I'm going to come back to it. Women Indigenous Media. And this was filmed by Doug McLean. That name keeps coming up. Doug McLean. And of course, Chase Iron Eyes is in here. It's like kind of like a Where's Waldo video.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to look around, but front and center, right in the middle, is Myron Dewey of Digital Smoke Signals, drumming. There is no rhyme or reason to this drumming. So for Native people that respect the drumming circle and that understand the power and the tradition behind that and the songs, this is just a mishmash of, I don't know what this is. It was gross.
Yeah, you can find it on YouTube. It's over an hour long, but we just took a little clip.
Just a clip, just a reminder.
So what I'd like you to do with me right now is join with me.
Myron, he's right there. He's hard to miss.
Heartbeat to unite humanity, the global platform.
Big guy in the black shirt right between the two teepees.
In this place of connection. drumming, I want you to drum into the infinite. Allow yourself to leave the form and become the formless. And if you're here and you can hear my voice, I want you to move your body through the energetic field. I want you to begin to feel the air, the water, the fire, the earth again. And allow your body to be that conduit of energy that transforms our world, that puts you inside of the prayer of dance, puts you inside of the song of the heart of your ancestors.
There were literally completely nude people in this group, people that were high on drugs. That is not allowed in ceremony. Neither is filming anything like a sacred drum ceremony, a circle with any kind of ceremony, which is why when I told Wes about the fact that Damna Ninkin was in that video with Michael Fassigan and Dean Dedman, that they dedicated burning buildings at the end of the encampment to our radio station directly to me, and then called it ceremony. I knew that there was something wrong with that guy, that he would involve himself in something like that.
Yeah.
I knew that there was something wrong with Myron Dewey, and that Jay Fuller that I showed you was with Christina Hollenbach and Olive Bias at the courthouse in the background of Jordan Sheridan's interview. I knew there was something wrong with all of those folks and their attacks, direct attacks on the Kathleen Bennett case, the innocent woman that we exonerated here at 88.1 of the elder abuse accusations that were being made against her. Her mother went to an early grave because they kidnapped her elderly 82-year-old with dementia mom away from her and left her in a hospital to die. She developed bed sores. She lost all ability to ambulate over that period of time, and likely felt that her daughter her family had abandoned her. What she went through, the hell that she went through, including, becoming so frail and sick that she went to an early grave, I will never know. We'll never know. But this man, General Clark, his son, he knew every step of the way because I was telling him what was happening, and his son didn't care. And I know that the general knew about Kathleen Bennett. I know because Wesley called me one time when he was with his dad.
Okay.
I know that he was probably talking with him about what was going on at Standing Rock while denying that his father wanted him to go there, wanted anything to do with Standing Rock, or was proud of him in any way. When in fact, he was very involved. And he was involved with the same groups of people, like Nexus, of inherited wealth of billionaires, that probably were funding not only TYT, but this operation that took place at Standing Rock. So I also want to remind you, because in that video I showed you, it was either in the Glitterati show or the one about Hollywood, where I showed you all of the people that went to Washington, D.C. for that march.
Oh, yeah.
There was a woman standing right behind the kidnapper, Mulaney Stoneman, and she's playing with her hair. That is none other than Grandma Patricia. I'm like, I know that woman. Who's that woman?
That's right. You asked, who is that woman?
Who is that woman? Because I remember her face. I'm like, where do I remember her face from? Well, she was this woman, Grandma Patricia. Look at that beanie on her head. You remember what that beanie is? That's all L'Oreal's crew. That's Veterans Stand for Standing Rock crew beanie. And here it says what Grandma Patricia is from Standing Rock. She's a 71-year-old, half Chinese, half Italian woman. She's another fake Indian. This woman is another fake Indian, like Desiree Kane, like Red Wolf Pope, and all of these people selling ceremony out at Burning Man. Patricia was one of the warmest people I met in camp, and after spending a little time with her, I could see why people call her Grandma Patricia. She was raising money for the closure and evacuation of the camps. This is right at the time that Kathleen is in jail and Mary is dying in a hospital.
Yeah.
These women were raising money, and they got $6,900, I believe.
Wow.
From hippies.
For
No, it was
hippies.
6,000.
Okay.
Hippies for Standing Rock. And here is a little clip of Grandma Patricia with Mulaney Stoneman and the other grandma that was out there. Regina.
Brave. Yeah.
Brave. That were all part of Wes's little operation.
Mm-hmm.
Here's that clip.
Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Mulaney Stoneman. I'm part of the Women's Society that was kind of a rebirthing society under the Ochete Shagoy. And we wanted to say some of our thank yous for some of the people that have helped us fundraise here since February 19th. Some of the things that we wanted to discuss with you is just a little bit of history of our Women's Society. The Women's Society, we protect the women, children, and elderly. We have about 10 to 15 women ranging from ages 18 to 82 years old that help us help other women. So we're kind of a team of, so we have some indigenous and some non-indigenous women that.
Yeah, except for elderly women you put in the hospital, not protected there. Mary Trujillo was in the hospital at that time when they were doing this video.
Yeah.
And she's excluded from the women's group that's supposed to help the elders and the children.
And I was literally begging anybody that I could, Josh, Ren, me, you, several of our friends in this community that even went all the way to the Bismarck hospital to visit Mary. We were begging for help for this family, for this frail old woman who needed to be cared for. And the very people that were responsible for putting all of this shenanigans out there together were pretending like, oh my God, wow, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Who are they? Who is that? I mean, Wes was even mispronouncing his friends and co-workers and staff people's last names incorrectly or names incorrectly, so as to pretend that he didn't know them very well. His friend, Nora Maccabee, who he's been friends with for years, who he talks about repeatedly in these clips that you've heard and that you're about to hear, that one of the people that got him to go out to Standing Rock with Sean Stone, Oliver Stone's son, the director Oliver Stone from Hollywood. Yeah. He says Maccabee and Maccabee interchangeably as if he doesn't know the pronunciation of his friend's last name. And it's a diversionary tactic that I've seen a lot of these other phonies using in interviews, like Bill Runningfisher, who definitely knows who Mulaney Stoneman is, saying Mulaney, I don't know how she says her name. But of course, that could also be part and parcel of the fact that these people all changed their names to conceal their identities frequently. Oh my gosh, I do have to tell you. Saludos a tía Paulina y un beso. I gotta give a shout out to my Aunt Pau on the radio because she's back, hopefully, from her European vacation.
Okay.
Say hi to my Aunt Pau. You remember her?
Hello.
You met her at my Aunt Lucy's house.
Buenos dias.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches.
Buenas tardes. Oh, buenas noches. Look at the clock.
That's right. So let me tell you guys that you're about to hear a clip of the General Wesley Clark's son. This was, again, right after he claimed to have gone to the FBI offices to report all of this. And this is only a short 4-minute clip.
Yeah.
But I questioned him about Courtney Doctor. And he acts like he has no clue who Courtney Doctor, the girlfriend of Kyle Thompson, is, even though later on a lot of the phonies he's associated with were literally promoting her, as you've heard, because Desiree Kane tried to tell me, or was going to tell me about her trip to North Dakota. And Wes told me that Courtney Doctor's boyfriend, Kyle Thompson, had a sister that was murdered because she was a counterintelligence officer for Tiger Swan. Remember that story that they tried to float?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the June 16, 2017 clip of Wesley Clark Jr., the son of the 4-star General Wesley Clark Sr. Yep.
No, well, he's taking a long time to talk to this guy. Oh man, come on. I wonder if they know I'm literally not leaving until somebody talks to me. So I'm still pacing around. The dude in the white shirt is just staring at me really intently. Still pacing. For fuck's sake. Get me the fuck out of here.
Oh. What do you know about Courtney Doctor?
I've never heard that name before that I'm aware of.
She is the girlfriend of Kyle Thompson, the guy that brought the assault rifle into the camp.
What'd she look like?
White, stringy hair,
I don't know if I ever met her.
blonde, like blonde stringy
I'd
hair.
have to look at a picture, but I'm down. My charge is so low and everything. And now this guy's opening up his backpack, and I'm going to get ready to fucking dive in the building. He's picking up the backpack now. He's holding the backpack. He's opening shit up in the backpack as he's talking to a cop. He's really talking to this cop a lot. They wouldn't even fucking speak to me.
I know.
Do you remember when I said he walked over? Go ahead, get in line. Remember when I said he walked over and started talking to him? He's still talking to him. Did you hear how long they talked to me?
Yeah, exactly.
Like 2 fucking seconds. What the fuck? I mean, what the fuck?
That woman, Courtney Doctor, she contacted one of the other people, the person that disarmed Kyle Thompson.
Yeah.
And they were, pretending to be friends with them and trying to gain their trust. And all of a sudden, they went on Activate Now with Mike Fassig and Aubrey Peckham and said that they had, done all this stuff for latent securities and the Dakota Access Pipeline. None of it's been verified, but I found it very interesting that all of those people ended up hooking up on Activate Now. And I wondered if you knew anything, because I know that they were working for, at least Kyle was working.
This guy keeps reaching in his fucking suitcase, and it's making me nervous as fuck.
The guy that's talking to the cops?
Yeah. He's sitting there, he keeps digging in his suitcase, and it's just scaring the fucking shit out of him. Okay, he's done talking to him. He's gonna come talk to me. Thanks. Sir, Lieutenant? Hi. My name is Wes Clark Jr. I'm on the phone just because I need a record of this. My name is Wes Clark Jr. My real name is Wesley K. Clark II. I'm the son of retired 4-star General Wesley Clark, who ran for president. I'm involved in some kind of Russian espionage and sabotage cell.
What agency are you looking for to talk to?
I need to speak to someone in CI.
CI?
Counterintelligence with the FBI. Or anti-terrorism in the FBI.
Appointment number yet?
I was given a slip to call upstairs. They simply took a statement. I've called 5 FBI offices in the last 4 days. These people know I'm onto them. They've called me 15 times this morning. I think they're literally watching me right now. I really need to debrief somebody and give them all my information.
It starts with that phone number. So,
dude, literally, my life is in danger, and I can't go home. What can I do?
That number. That's all I'm told. So you
Okay.
don't go upstairs or do liaisons between public and doesn't work like that.
Okay.
It's not at the lowest level.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Even look, if there's even anything with the State Department, this is an international issue.
Well, that's something that you may have to talk to work with the State Department.
Okay. I'm gonna have to drop. I've got to call the number they have upstairs to make an appointment. I hope I'm still alive and can call you back in 10 minutes.
Okay,
Thank
I'll
you.
be waiting.
Can I have the number, please, sir, to call upstairs?
Now, again, I have to tell you, I don't know if this was all an act. I don't know if you want to chime in on what your thoughts are, but I will just say that he does go on to say in recording you're about to hear that he's not entirely sure he ever really talked to anyone at the FBI.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It seems like he was in the place. I mean, you could hear people in the background. Whether he's doing exactly what he said, and he's saying I need to go to the CI department. The guy's like, what's that? And he says he's in the FBI office. And I think in one of the later clips here, you're going to do, he's at the police department. And I don't know. It seemed like it was legit that he's actually pursuing this and trying to, get to safety. And he was keeping you on the phone. He asked you to record him and stay with him for his own safety, And those things are very serious. But when later I've heard him say several times that, I've talked to the FBI 5 times. He had this big thing of talking to the FBI to get things reported. And I don't know. The FBI has never contacted us, and I hope they never do, and we contacted them once, and they never got back to us. I can see how this stuff can fall into an abyss. Whether it's true or not, I have suspicion.
I do too, because he literally tells me in the call you're about to hear that he didn't get a name, a file number, or anything. And that is very suspicious. A full-grown adult man who served in the military, like Wes Clark Jr., should know you need to get a name from someone, a card, a business card. He had his freaking phone with him. He couldn't take a picture of the person that he spoke to. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't ring. It rings untrue.
Yep.
So here I am about to play. So he hung up on me because he had to go talk to the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now,
exactly.
in this next clip that you are about to hear, which is a little bit longer, he talks to me about what I just said, that he didn't get anything from the FBI. He doesn't know if he's ever, and the 4 times he's done it before, has no evidence that he's actually talked to someone from the FBI to show anyone. So he doesn't know if he's ever really reported this. I would know. Mm-hmm. I did report it to the FBI, the kidnapping, the crime that occurred to Kathleen Bennett and Mary Trujillo. Yep. I reported it to the FBI, and I reported it, and I recorded myself calling the FBI office and talking with the woman at the FBI and getting her information over the phone.
Yeah.
I can prove that I called the FBI and reported this crime of kidnapping at Standing Rock, but the son of 4-star General Wesley Clark cannot. That's what you're about to hear him tell me.
Yeah.
Then he talks about Nora Maccabee, who he, again, mispronounces her last name for whatever reason, and tells me that he called his friend Nora, just got off the phone with my friend Nora, and that she suggested that he go to Alex Jones's InfoWars and tell on that platform over there where Roger Stone is at. Yeah, he should go over there with Sean Stone, InfoWars, that place, and tell them everything that is happening so that they could put it on their channel. And of course, that sounds crazy. Then he goes on to talk about TYT, because one of the things I really wanted to pin him down on after he took the 2 witnesses in this case and the son of the grandson of Mary Trujillo, the son of Kathleen Bennett, to speak with Anna Kasparian while Cenk was in Milan and then Turkey. I did not believe that they had handled the case of Kathleen Bennett well previously, when Jordan basically tricked us and then went and supported Michael Marcus and Olive Bias and these other people that were involved in the crime. And also, I did not feel comfortable with the fact that Wes, put all of this together, and they all went and had these conversations with TYT without the reporter that broke the story, me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm trying to pin him down as to whether or not TYT will actually do the story. Are they going to do something with this or not?
Yeah.
And he basically admits to me in this particular clip that you're about to hear, probably not. That was all just a waste of time. And he blames it on Cenk. He says Cenk won't let her do it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, she doesn't strike me as the kind of person that's just going to sit down and roll over when someone tells her, no, we're not going to run this very important story that includes TYT in it, because they're the ones that sent the veteran stand out there. They're the ones that raised a bunch of money for it, right? Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
So another thing you'll hear in this clip that I'm about to play of General Wesley Clark's son, Wesley Clark Jr., who went out to Standing Rock, he will give me a list. That list comes from a party, a reunion party for the veteran stand people that he worked with that went out to do the veteran stand. Why is he holding a reunion party for them?
Yeah.
When he was kicked out of the organization?
And had
'Cause
nothing more to do with
he
it.
was ever
Yeah.
kicked out.
Yeah.
I don't think he was, because he still had his hands, his fingers firmly on the actions of all of these people. And he lists among them Robin Gage. And he tells me about how she was one of the witnesses in the case, the one that filmed
Yep.
Kathleen Bennett at the casino with her mom.
Mm-hmm.
So we had proof, we had undeniable proof that Kathleen was with her mom caring for her at the time that they said that she was abandoned, that Mary was abandoned and naked in the camp. So it couldn't happen. Could not have possibly happened. It was all made up out of whole cloth. Well, incidentally, she was hanging out, Robin Gage was hanging out with Wesley Clark at the casino, at the pavilion, on the day in question, and he failed to tell me about it. Jen Spalding, one of the other witnesses in this case, also hanging out with Wes Clark, also invited, also worked with Rubicon afterwards with Sadef Buyakataman.
Yep.
So these people are all connected, and of course, they're named in this party list. You will hear Robin Gage and Jen Spalding and, Sandy Jones.
Yep.
Remember who Sandy Jones is?
Mm-hmm.
Sandy Jones is the woman that called to tell me about Bill Renningfisher.
Yeah.
Called to tell me L'Oreal was getting paid $5,000 a week for the cleanup out
Yep,
there.
exactly.
Called to tell me all the secrets about her, overspending and her little crew, L'Oreal Blackshaw's little crew. And she also told me my life was in danger.
Mm-hmm.
What's really interesting about the clip that you're about to hear is that Anna, Wes's wife, gets involved. She jumps into the conversation. She wants to talk to me too. And in the last clip that you heard, in the last shows, Freak the F Out 1 and 2, you will hear Wes say that Anna has the domain names for the websites for the Veteran Stand for Standing Rock. That Wes was going to be willing to hand over to Michael A. Wood Jr. according to their texts between each other. And here I hear her having another level of understanding and involvement into all of this. She is pretty much had been only mentioned in conversations with Wes, but here she actually gets personally involved. So listen for that. And of course, another person that's listed in the party list is Seven McDonald.
Mm-hmm.
She was out there too. So listen for all of those things. And you'll also hear Anna tell me that my life is in more danger than even Wes's life is. Considering how things turned out and that all these people were lying to hide their own involvement, feels like a threat now.
Yeah.
In hindsight. Here's that clip.
Okay, and before I start the clip, I have to actually change something on the slideshow.
Okay.
And we can go.
I see. There's a picture of Sandy Jones and Robin Gage. It's recording. You see that? It just goes right to busy signal. Over and over again. Now it's ringing.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Oh, thank goodness.
It wasn't, my messages aren't going through. You know how when they go through, they turn blue?
Yep.
Yeah, well, some of my messages turned gray.
Yeah, I know, because they're doing something to us.
They're not going through, and I called you over and over again. None of your calls came through. They didn't ring. It just showed missed call, missed call. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I wasn't even able to call you a lot.
No, I couldn't do it either. I kept calling you right now. I've recorded a little piece of it. I recorded how you can hear me calling you, and it goes, that sonar sound, and then it just went right to busy signal.
So that guy stood outside the whole fucking time I was there, talking on the phone, staring at me. And I made a statement to the FBI. They dragged it on, like, hold on, and then he'd come back 4 minutes later, and then hold on, and be back like 4 or 5 minutes later, and it's like just kind of running my battery down.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wouldn't, like, okay, thanks, we'll put it in a report. No case file, no fucking nothing.
Did you ask him for a file number?
Yeah.
And they said,
Nothing.
wow. Did you get their names?
Nope, wouldn't give me names.
They wouldn't even give you their names?
Nope.
They have to give you some kind of
Like, I
identification.
literally stood outside the building telling them, I think there's an imminent terrorist attack on the United States, and I know the identities of the people involved.
Mm-hmm.
And they would not come down and fucking meet with me.
Well, that should, you just did some recon on the FBI, and now you know how that shit works. Well, you've been doing this for a while now. How many times have you contacted them?
Like 5 or 6 times at least.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm actually dialing FBI people, because these people can, I mean, they have control of my phone, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we have to go at this at a different in a different direction.
Well, I called my friend Nora in D.C., and she's like, just go down to InfoWars and put it out widespread. And I'm like, wow, that sounds like a setup.
Yeah. Go down to InfoWars. Jesus, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well,
I'm just fucking convinced Cenk is somehow part of this.
well, you know, I'm just telling you, I don't know. I have my feeling about this is that we will find out depending on how they react over at TYT to Kathleen Bennett's story. It seems to be the litmus test for everybody.
Yeah.
And if you're right about Anna, she's not going to let them censor her.
They will, though. I guarantee they're going to tell her, don't run the story, don't do the story.
But if they do, she doesn't sound to me like the kind of girl that's going to allow that, or that is going to, like, sit with that.
No, I don't think so either.
And that will also show further what the situation over there is.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, even if they fire her or some shit, you're going to find out. We're going to find out. Whether or not they would allow her to tell that story.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. That is inevitable.
And hopefully she'll be able to do something while Cenk is not here.
That is true as well. That is true as well.
Because you said he's going to be gone for like 14 days?
He'll be gone till the 21st, he said.
So, that's a lot of time.
It is, but I'm sure there's somebody else there at the station who's equally a part of it all.
Great. And if they find out and they're acting like assholes, we'll know exactly what's going on. I have plenty more information, and I am going to continue to put it out there.
You told Josh everything I told you, right?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was telling Josh
Good.
what was going on right away.
Good. Because I don't know who the fuck Josh is, but he has to know somebody.
Yes, and also, I trust him, Wesley. He's taking care of the information.
Oh, but here, I go by Wes.
Sorry,
That's okay.
Wes.
Think about that word, too, with all the numbers I gave you. Wes.
Wes.
As in, Wes.
Mm-hmm. So, I think he's handled every piece of information that we have had. And he has collected a lot of information very carefully. And by carefully, I mean in a thoughtful way, in such a way that doesn't hurt other people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's taken a lot of safety precautions to protect everybody involved.
Yeah. I'm afraid the time for those precautions is over.
Well, if there is anything that happens, especially if something were to happen to you, all fucking hell is going to break loose.
Yeah, but all hell's gonna break loose everywhere anyway, and they're gonna just set me up as cats. For them, who's gonna believe Cindy Gomez in North Dakota?
Right, but evidence doesn't lie. It's not me. Like, the shit that we have on all of these people, it goes beyond me.
Yeah, that's true.
Facts are facts. Like I've said, people can attack me. They can say, all sorts of things about my body or the way that I talk or the way that I present information, but the information is still the information.
Yep.
The interviews I have are still the interviews. The admissions that were made on those interviews are still admissions. And, I'm not just talking with people. I didn't just interview people. I am trained in interrogatories. I am trained in how to question people in depositions, and I know how to get information, especially to build a case. So that's why I was able to take apart all of these people, because unlike a reporter, I didn't just want a story, I wanted information.
Yeah.
And I gathered a lot of evidence through that information. I made Bill Running Fisher describe everything. That's how you pin people down. Tell me everything. What time was it? What was the weather like? Describe everything to me like I'm, on the radio. And I said that to him. I said, describe everything to me like you're talking to somebody on the radio.
Yep.
And he started to have to describe things, and in describing things, he had to make up lies. And then people can't keep their lies straight because there's too many variables when you make them give you that much detail. So those interviews and the evidence that we collected from people that showed up in the comment sections of our show to further give more statements in public. I mean, we've collected all of that, not to mention that we went back months on a lot of these folks' Facebook pages and took screenshots of conversations, pictures. I mean, Facebook is amazing.
Yep. Okay, I'm parking at the Pacific Division headquarters for LAPD.
Okay.
I'm probably going to turn you off because I'm, not right now, not till I'm inside. Actually, I won't. I've got a 30% charge. I read you all the names from that invite, right?
Yes.
Okay, let me just do it one more time with all the way through with now that we have good reception.
Good.
So, the names are Jeremiah Zick, Elizabeth Torrance, Alma Haas, Anthony Diggs, Krista McDermott, Angelina Gonzalez, Judy Moore, Carrie Foster Rimada, spelled Forster Rimada, spelled Rimada, Brian Matthews, Amy Allen, Andrew Ariano, Daniel J. Calderon. Let me keep going down. Robin Gage, Sandy Jones, Daryl Haas, Seven McDonald, Shell Luttrell, Anna Perry's Clark, my wife, Sylvia Almanza, Ruth Iorio, Aristides Rubadub Alvarez, me, Theobald Palomares, Laura Patricia, and Katie Robinson. And there was also a guy there named Austin.
Austin. No last name?
No last name that I'm aware of.
Okay.
He had a rescue dog. Just like the fucking crazy PTSD vet that came by my house a couple months ago and said he wanted to blow shit up.
Also,
after he stopped by Robin to visit Robin Gage and Lee Jones.
What?
Yeah. His name is Chris something or other. Boudreaux or something like that.
Okay. Wow, that's really freaking me out.
Why?
Well, because Robin Gage is one of the witnesses in this case. And she was, the one that filmed Kathleen at the pavilion.
Yeah.
And Sandy Jones was the woman that contacted me with regard to the fraud by Michael A. Wood Jr. and L'Oreal Blackshaw. And also told me that Bill Runningfisher was a mercenary and that my life was in danger. So this person just happens to go and visit Sandy Jones, who's talked to me, Robin Gage, who's talked to me, and then Wesley Clark, who's talked to me. That's weird?
Yep. I told them the same thing I tell all these guys when they stop by. I ain't up to anything. I ain't organizing anything. I don't feel the call of the spirit. I'm not doing anything till I feel it. I always tell them the same thing. And not to use violence.
Mm-hmm. I don't understand that, but anyway,
okay, so
I want you to remember
Police Department, Pacific Division 12312.
Okay. I want you to also remember to send me the stuff that you have, the text messages on Christina Hollenbach, and anything else that you want to send to me.
I'll tell you what, email me, because he's got all the messages, Josh does.
Okay.
I'm assuming he already sent them to you. I don't have anything different than what he has.
Okay. I'll have him send them to me, but he's on the road right now, so he doesn't want to send stuff from his phone. He wants to wait till he gets to a secure location so he can do it. And I just want to make sure that information that is important to keep you safe is in more than one hand. So
I will text it to you before I walk into the police station right now.
Okay.
Or actually, let's see, I have your signal number so I can attach files to that, right?
Right to signal, yep. Mm-hmm.
Because I've got the signal thing open. There's
Nope.
the mute button.
You can't do it while you're talking to me. You'll have to do it when you get off the phone with me.
Okay, I will do it right now.
Okay.
Right.
Bye. So I don't know if you were paying attention to a couple of spots in there. One of them is the fact that I'm trying to get him to send me the things that he keeps telling me that he has. All these messages with Christina Hollenbach and other people. And he claims that he sent them all to Josh already. What I discovered over time was, I kept thinking to myself, maybe Josh just doesn't want to share some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Turned out when I asked him, he never got a lot of the things that Wes claimed he had sent already to Josh. The things he did send, what Josh has shared with me, like those texts between him and Christina Hollenbach, although it's very clear when you watch that show, there was more conversations between them than what he shared with Josh. There was more that they talked, but he didn't really give all of his conversations over. He just gave little bits and pieces. Same with Michael A. Wood Jr. He gave us little bits and pieces, but he did give us enough. He did show us enough to contradict his own retelling of what happened. So we were able to, piece together how he's been misleading us and lying to us to throw us off the track while pretending that he really cares about what we're doing and definitely wants to help Mary and Kathleen. The other thing that I was hoping that people would catch was the fact that in his worried panic that he's being followed and could be, the victim of some crime.
Yes. Yes.
Could be killed or something or kidnapped. I don't know what he thinks is going to happen to him. But he is unable to send me information that could prove the stuff that he's obviously trying to talk to the FBI about that could prove that he's been blackmailed by Russians and that he's part of some operation that they got him to go into because they want to use him as a patsy. He's not sending that over to me. Even as I'm telling him, look, he's like, oh, Josh has all of that.
Yeah.
Notice how many times as I tell him, send the stuff you have to me, he's like, oh, I already gave it to Josh.
Josh has all of it. Yes, yes.
He can give it to you. And also, he avoids being accountable to me to giving me the things that he claims he wants someone to have so that he can be protected. And here I am asking him, okay, give it to me. No.
Yeah.
Much of the stuff that he claims that he was going to send to me, I never got. In the following clip that you are about to hear, Now you're going to hear Anna talk. I
Okay.
thought she was in the clip before. Thank you for correcting me on that. You could have told me while I was saying the
Well, I
wrong
was looking.
thing,
I was
too.
looking at them.
You were like,
Maybe
what?
it's in there.
Well, she was mentioned in both of the clips.
Yes, she was.
So I just saw her name and I'm like, oh, she's in this clip. But actually, she's in this clip, the third clip.
Yeah.
And in this clip, you're going to hear him call me after he gets out of the police station and tell me how that went. And in it, I speak with Anna Perry's Clark. In this one, I want you to pay close attention to what he tells me about a Serbian guy named Mishka Midic, who hired him to do a movie about Constantine the Great, a movie which he later sold the movie rights to Bold Films, and which he tells me is the basis of a lot of what happened to him out at Standing Rock, because this Mishka, who went on his honeymoon for a couple of days with him and Anna when he got married and hired him to do this book, showed up at Wes's house on the weekend when he was writing the operations orders to go to Standing Rock.
Oh yeah.
Remember those crazy operations orders? You were
yeah.
just talking about them.
Yeah.
You thought it was going to be some kind of bloodbath.
Yeah, and I thought it was a that he wrote them. I never realized that he wrote that operations order. I remember seeing that come over the internet when the veterans were going to go to Standing Rock, and I was trying to figure out what this is all about, what it meant, and how it shifted everything. And then I saw the operations order, which had a long list of how they were going to gather, what they were going to do, a schedule, how they were going to actually basically go over the bridge and take over the bridge and keep on going all the way to the drill pad and surround the drill pad in a big circle. And I was like, wow, they're planning on doing this. They're planning on breaking through that barrier with the veterans in the front. And I thought, boy, this is going to be really, really dangerous. It sounds really, really crazy. And that in that call where he actually says he wrote that order, I thought, oh, that makes sense now.
And then, of course, in another call that I've already played on my show, you hear him talking about how he went and talked to Sheriff Laney on the bridge. And Sheriff Laney's like, I read that operation thing that you wrote.
Yeah.
And that sound like you're going to do some crazy things out here. And he says to Sheriff Laney, oh, yeah, that's just the Russians trying to get us all to fight each other and make you think. And it's like, you admitted you were writing them. Okay. So listen for that. And also listen to what he says happened to him that freaked him out. He's claimed now that there are things that set him off, that's it. That's when he had to go into the FBI because this was the moment. In this clip you're about to hear, he claims this is another trigger that sent him right off to the FBI, which was that Mishka, this guy, the same guy, showed up at Wes's house recently. Not just when he was just about to go off to Standing Rock and wrote the operations orders, but recently to this call, which would have been in the week before June 16 of 2017.
Yep.
So he had just come by his house in the days before this recording was made again, and he showed up with a rock star and the head of a secret police for Belgrade. This is what he said to me.
Yep.
You're about to hear it. And that policeman, that secret police guy in Mishka, told him that Christina Hollenbeck was really a Russian agent whose father was in the GRU, and that Putin himself was prioritizing her career. And, of course, he also ties all of that to Nexus and Sean Stone, and then, of course, James Martinez.
Oh, yeah.
Here's this clip.
Let me do a quick change.
You betcha.
Here we go.
Hello?
Hey.
Hey.
How'd it go?
So, the police said, well, we'll put an extra patrol in your neighborhood for the weekend and come in on Monday.
Okay. I suppose
So that's something.
that's something, yeah. That makes me feel good. They listen to you, and they're going to put an extra patrol near you.
And then there will be at least a fucking case file somewhere.
Yeah, at least. Well, I have everything that you told me to recorded, so.
I mean, Am I being paranoid, Cindy?
I don't think you can be paranoid in a situation that, you're... I think that you might be a little bit triggered because it's all coming
Oh, no, I'm definitely triggered.
Because...
My wife's like, hey, can I talk to Cindy too? So I'm going to put you on speaker.
Okay.
Hey, Cindy.
Hi.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Oh, well, let me unplug the...
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, how are you?
Can you hear?
Yes?
Oh, that's weird. Hold on. I got to plug this back in then. Cindy, you still there?
Yes.
Really weird. I can't put you on speakerphone.
Really? Do you have something plugged into your phone?
Well, I have my headset in. That's what I was talking to you before.
But did you take your headset out?
Yeah, here, I'll take it out again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Sometimes signal is weird, so...
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. Nice, dirty investigation you're going on.
Yes, I guess. So, I don't think that you're being paranoid. I think that you're being triggered but the thing is that the fact that you're connecting a lot of dots and that's very upsetting to you because of what you're seeing doesn't change the fact that those dots were already there, so it's like you're not really in any more danger than you already were, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, because, I wanted to talk to you because Wes was scared to come into the house just now because there was a car parked out front that he didn't know. And then he pulled over, honked the car to get the dogs to bark in our house, and they didn't bark, and so then he got worried. So Wes, I think, he's putting a lot of the dots together and he's bringing it publicly, as you are.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think he feels he's in danger from the Russian mob, and the Russians are trying to kill him. And I kind of, I know you both are exposing a lot of things that aren't, would not be coming out if it were not, especially you, if it were not for you. And I don't know that his level of paranoia matches what's actually happening.
Well, here's the thing. You have to understand that what I've seen, and I've seen this as a pattern happening not just to Wes, but to a lot of other people that have been leaking information to me, is that there is a concerted effort to throw a bunch of information their way, which always happens after a leak. Right. After a leak, there's always a bigger leak, right?
Right.
And as soon as that happens, there's a fear factor that is involved, which is triggering. And when those folks have been, it just happens every single time. When those folks are triggered, they start freaking out, and then people can point at them and go, look, they're freaking out. So they've lost credibility. So I would
yes.
I don't know how to find the words here, suggest to you that there's a level of that happening now, and that you need to keep your calm, because otherwise you can't make any decisions. You're not going to be able to make decisions if you're feeling panicked or if you're feeling afraid. You're best at making decisions when you're thinking clearly and calm. And
he's not.
Right.
He's thinking people are trying to kill him, and
here's what freaks me out. Is this woman, Tawani, called me from a crypto phone with a spoofed number.
Wow.
She's supposedly a fucking homeless person living in Topanga. How the fuck does she have a crypto phone?
Right. Right. But, again, these contacts and the way that they're being made that are signs to you clearly of, more nefarious activities, they're also meant to trigger you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. And I think that's what they're doing, and they're making it really paranoid.
It's a mind game, Wes.
Yeah.
And I've seen it.
I mean, from my point of view, I don't think anyone wants to kill Wes. And I think he's building his anxiety. It's building up. And now you've been to the FBI twice. You've been to the police once. And you've almost discredited yourself with them now.
How?
I don't think that that's discrediting him. I made an FBI report, and when I first contacted this family, they told me, they didn't trust the cops. They were scared of the cops out there. And they said, I said, you need to make a call. You need to go down to the police station, and you need to file a report. The fact of the matter is, you have to preempt what they're going to do. And that means you have to document what you're experiencing, and you have to tell people this is what's happening. Now, the fact that Wes was getting a call from this kind of a phone in the middle of a conversation where we're talking about said issue, that is concerning. I mean, I have been experiencing this with my phone calls with other whistleblowers as well. I'm not surprised that it's happening. I think it's important to document everything.
No, I agree. But I don't think it should come to the point where you're see someone on the corner and think that they're trying to kill you and afraid to come into your own house because you're afraid someone's in there trying to kill you. And that's kind of where Wes is right now.
Well, I get that, your mind can run away with you, like conjecturing what all kinds of things could happen, especially somebody that's actually been in the military and has combat experience. I get it, You can imagine a whole lot more than somebody like me can imagine. So.
Well, Wes wasn't in combat. So.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said. I heard the dogs.
Wes wasn't in combat.
Okay. Well, I mean, he was.
But he does have PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of these things he wasn't in.
You're breaking up on me. Are you still there?
Hello?
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 Yes, now I can hear you.
So, it's come to the point where he's just kind of paralyzed with fear.
I understand that. I cannot say, I cannot judge what Wesley is going through with an objective eye, because I have also been paralyzed by fear at times during the last 6 months of reporting on this story. And when you don't think people are following you, okay, and then all of a sudden you realize that, oh shit, somebody really is following me, then it makes you even more paranoid, because you start thinking like, okay, well, I didn't want to believe that this was happening, but it obviously is happening, so now what the fuck do I do? So, I'm not saying that it's a healthy thing to do, but I don't think there's anything wrong with documenting things. I don't want anyone to be paralyzed by fear, but I've been there. And I think that the best thing that I have been able to do to calm myself is, I'm a woman of color. We kind of live life on the edge all of the time, because our lives have less value in this world, unfortunately. But there's, I guess, some kind of liberation that I've personally experienced in my walk, having been a survivor of cancer and also of a very abusive ex-husband. And there's something that I was able to release in that moment where, I'm happy that I'm still alive. So I'm kind of, every day that I have after I thought I was going to die has been icing on the cake for me.
Yeah.
And
like Wes's level of paranoia right now is that last week he thought that I was an infiltrator. Because
Well,
he met
no,
me
no, no, no.
7 years ago.
Let me explain, because there's more to the story than this.
Okay.
Shortly after I was divorced, this Serbian guy named Miško Mitic hired me to write a movie about Constantine the Great.
Mm-hmm.
That was the same week I met my wife. We took our honeymoon in Croatia, where Miško Mitic and his wife came and spent 2 nights with us.
At your request.
At my request.
Mm-hmm.
Miško Mitic then showed up at my house the weekend I wrote the operations order for Standing Rock.
Wow.
And he turned up again 2 weeks ago, and he came by my house last Wednesday, and something felt incredibly off, and that's when I went to the FBI.
Wow.
And that's when you thought you met
No,
us at the same time.
I said that's just like a 2% possibility.
You didn't give me a percentage, but I think that Wesley needs to know. I don't think anyone's trying to kill you. However, I do agree with Cindy that people are trying to trigger you to look crazy.
Yeah.
And you need to kind of harness that and just get back to calmness and reality.
You have to be very careful. I mean, you are taking precautions. You know how to take precautions, and I encourage you to continue to take precautions, but don't let people make you incapacitated in your decision-making powers.
Correct.
And
I'm not incapacitated. I keep trying to unravel more and more and more of this.
But at the same time, you keep on looking out and thinking all your friends, like people who are you're a suspect, or
I think anyone I
any
met after I
car in
communicated,
front of
no,
you, or someone on the corner is
anyone
staring at you.
I met after I communicated with that woman on Twitter is a suspect to me. And that includes Sadeth. That includes all these fucking people from Standing Rock.
At the same time, you met Nora, Seven,
I met Nora long
and
before. I met Nora like 3 or 4 years ago.
well, I just don't want him going down a rabbit hole again, because it was a very bad time of November, December, January. We kind of just got over that.
I understand. It is very stressful. It is a stressful thing to deal with. And I understand how you feel about that. But again, from my perspective, everything that I have been uncovering has made me feel at times the same way. So
I mean, but
I may not be the best person to ask. You know,
Well, not to get you more nervous, but the fact of the matter is you're more likely to be a target than Wes is.
oh, I know that. I mean, I've known that from the very beginning. People have been telling me from the very beginning that my life is in danger, that I should get a gun, and I haven't gotten a gun. I haven't.
Me neither.
You know, people are like, well, don't you want to defend yourself if somebody's coming to kill you? I said, if somebody's coming to kill you, if somebody's coming to kill me, if somebody is intent on killing me, they're probably going to kill me. I'm not going to try to kill them. That's just not who I am. And I definitely would try to defend my life. I would try to stay alive, but I'm not going to try and kill anybody. And I also, you know, like I've told Wesley, I have a legal background, so I document everything. I try to keep things very transparent. I tell people what's happening. I put my information out in a lot of different places, so that if something happens, the truth will still be exposed. And I try to make sure that everybody that's around me knows that, you know, if you kill me, then you're still going to have to deal with this information being out there anyway, so.
If they do something to you, I'll be screaming from the rooftops.
Well, I guess from why I wanted to talk to you is I wanted to just have Wes just relax a little and not just be on, you know, yeah, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware
Sure.
of who's there.
Mm-hmm.
But don't, I mean, Saturday he broke down and cried because, you know, he was scared of being alone. He was scared of being out there. And,
But you're not alone, Wesley. I mean, the world is watching, and everybody knows that you were right now, and that this stuff was going on. And people have eyes on people. Everybody.
I know, but also, I know, but at the same time, Hannah, okay, what you're saying right now would feed into my paranoia, because what you're saying is, hey, listen, take it easy, don't be excited. You only stumbled across the Reichstag fire right before it happens with all the culprits, and they know you know who they are. But listen, seriously, don't worry about it. Just relax. Try and go out drinking tonight and get on with your life. But it's kind of hard to do.
I think what Cindy said is right. These are triggers for you.
There's no
which is
question.
maximizing your PTSD and maximizing your paranoia. And I think you just need to just be calm, harness that, and, you know, be aware of your surroundings, be alert, but don't be suspect of everything and everyone. A car's parked in front of a car.
I don't think you can really tell someone not to be suspect of everything and everyone. I think that, you know, it's like kind of like saying, don't think about the elephant in the room, or don't think about, you know, a 300-pound gorilla. You're automatically going to think about it, right? I think that my advice would be to document everything, and to outwardly, when you speak to other people, you can talk to certain people, not very many openly, but you can talk to them. But to the rest of the world, you need to not show that you have that fear.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, don't let them see you sweat, basically.
Well, they saw me fucking sweating standing down in front of the FBI building for an hour and a half.
And on that note, I have to go because I have a business meeting, but it was very nice talking to you. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you. It was nice meeting you, too. Take care.
Babe, I'm going to stand up.
Yeah, I'm leaving.
Just give me a second. I'll put my headset back in. Hello?
Hey, I hope I didn't overstep by saying that. Is that okay?
No, I don't think you overstepped.
I'm just being honest because I've had plenty of people tell me that I'm being paranoid. I took incredible precautions to protect everything that I could around my house, like installed cameras, had people take different routes to my house every time they would come. I had people driving by and checking on me. I still do. And
yeah, here's the thing, Cindy. There's still that tiny 2% part of me that totally believes my wife is not who she says she is. I know, but you understand, it's like, okay, look, my last marriage busted up, and I went through a really fucking messy divorce, and then I met her like 6 weeks later, and okay, look, if someone was checking out my porn habits, because you're an intelligence agency, they know what I like, and they gave me exactly what I like. and they gave it to me the exact same week that this guy Mishko hired me.
Yeah. Well, you know,
There's more to Mishko than that. He showed up at my house last summer with some Serbian pop star, female, and the head of the secret police for fucking Belgrade. And they hung out in my backyard and had beers and cigarettes for like 2 hours before they all took off.
That's weird.
Yeah, it's weird as fuck.
But you're also Wesley Clark Jr. You're also I mean,
Cindy, I hang out in my garage almost all day, just obsessively digesting information and writing to people and talking on the phone. I do not lead an exciting life, unless you find, taking the bong hit once in a while exciting. I don't think most people would define that as excitement.
Well, it's not that you have an exciting life. It's just you are who you are.
No, I know a lot of random people.
right? And then you also live in a certain place. You're surrounded by certain people. And I'm not going to tell you not to feel what you feel or gaslight you about your fears. What I will say is, been there. I try not to let anybody see it. I just don't show that to the outside world because I need to do my fucking job every day.
Yeah.
And I need to take care of my family.
I'm not like my wife in the sense that I'm really fast. I have really good reflexes. And if someone comes for me, I'm going to fucking get out of it.
Good.
So, so when you're living in that mindset, you're just hyper alert.
I hear you.
But man, when I talked to this guy yesterday, he said he believed that Christina Hollenbeck was Christina Kurakova.
Mm-hmm.
Like a fucking bomb went off in my head because I know, DMing back and forth on Twitter with someone named Kuramanga.
Mm-hmm.
In like May or June last year. Like, I know this. And then when I went back and I checked the messages, not a single fucking one was there anymore.
Christina Hollenbeck has both a very big bio, a very lengthy bio for somebody of her age. Like, she's achieved every fucking thing.
Well, it's easy to fucking achieve everything if you have a country's intelligence service making sure you can do it.
Well, also, like, she's like, I don't know. You'd have to look at her bio. I mean, when I looked at it, I was like...
No, I've seen it.
I was like, who the fuck is this? Like, oh my God. This is the way I described Christina Hollenbeck. Christina Hollenbeck has been a director, a producer. She's run nonprofits. She's worked in politics. She's run a think tank. She, ran a 3-ring circus. She has done it all. And yet, when you try to find information about her, it's all related to that. Like, personal shit is locked down.
Yeah, well, I was told that she is this person, Kurakova, Christina Kurakova, that her father was a GRU officer that was executed because he refused to reactivate, and that Putin, had a special fucking... Now, this may all be bullshit, mind you.
Sure.
But he said, and he's like, yeah, and Putin had a special kind of, plan for her, and she was always a priority for him as an agent.
Well...
But then again, maybe that guy was just fucking making shit up. But Kurakova, and the description of her as having blonde hair and brown eyes, and the height and everything, and the picture that was on that Twitter header that Kuramanga had, it's just too coincidental.
Mm-hmm.
Like, way too coincidental. And then when I think of the timing, first her, then Sean Stone, then James Martinez, who comes through a circuitous route, not directly from Sean Stone.
Mm-hmm. My guess is that there's also some people in Hollywood that are connected to this.
Oh, there's no fucking question.
Yeah. I think that are helping fund some of these people, and that to me is very fucking questionable.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose they could be unwittingly funding mercenaries and terrorists, but I don't know how you fuck up that badly, and especially at that level, that you don't vet anyone. Like when Michael A. Wood Jr. was talking to me, and I was asking him...
I didn't vet him at all.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, he's on the Young Turks. He must be legit. He says he's a protest leader. He must be legit.
That was a mistake, Wesley.
That was a fucking one of many.
Wes. I will call you Wes. I'm going to practice saying it, Wes. I apologize.
That's okay.
I have to change your contact information on my phone so that it says Wes, so I don't call you by your full name.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
But I think that there are some people that are in the know that are in Hollywood that have been funding these people.
Listen, after after seeing what I've seen in the last 8 months, I'm not sure what to believe when I read the news. And here's the thing: I've seen all this happen before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my dad was the head of NATO during the war in Kosovo, but he was also negotiated the Dayton Peace Accords.
Hmm.
And he also went all over Ukraine after the civil war there started to figure out what was going on and talk to people and learn what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really specific personal reasons that I feel like I'm being targeted
Mm-hmm.
in this thing. And I don't think they're paranoia. I think they're logical. Because I saw this stuff play out in the Balkans. I saw it happen in, it happened in that breakaway region of Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
South Ossetia a couple of years ago. It's the Russian way of warfare is question reality. You don't know what's going on. You don't know who to trust, and get everybody to fucking fight each other, and then make money off the whole fucking thing.
Yep, that sounds a lot like this.
But I've seen it play out repeatedly. I mean, there was even a version of it that played out in Syria. I mean, here's what usually happens. Like in Syria, Ukraine, and in Bosnia, there will come a national crisis, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be a peace march. And the peace march will either be bombed, or more likely there will be a sniper who shoots people at the peace march.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened in each of those three situations.
Mm-hmm.
And the purpose of it is to drive the country into a war.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then essentially make all the money off it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's I've seen it play out. You've seen it play out in Mexico.
Yep, I have. That's why I call my show A Mexican Crossing Lines, because I've been trying to talk about this for a long time, of the similarities of the operations that are happening here and how they've already done this in Mexico. And I know what's coming next, you know? But again, there are some people that are very invested in not hearing that truth. Like, their jobs depend on it, their livelihoods depend on it. And
Okay, my wife just called me.
okay.
I've been off the phone with you for like 3 minutes. My wife just called me to interrupt our signal call, even though she knew we were on the phone. Said, "Why are you calling me?" She said, "To test my phone."
Okay.
And she wonders why I'm paranoid.
Well,
listen, the thing is, the amount of money these people have is infinite.
I know.
And when you think what motherfucking people were doing themselves out at Standing Rock for like $1, $2, or $15,000, what they do to their sense of humanity, I mean, it's alarming.
Yeah. But I'll tell you something. If I let myself get wrapped up in the fear of dying, I mean...
Look, I don't want to die.
No
but
one
at the
does.
same time, I'm not going to live in a world of lies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to shake my head at the lies and act like shit isn't happening that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Because and my wife is like, "Why do you care? Why do you care? Why don't you drop it?" Like, constantly trying to get me to stop talking to everybody on this and sharing what I know and getting their information. Kind of, we're putting a puzzle together.
Are you still there? Did I lose you, Wesley? Okay. So as you can hear, the call dropped again. I don't know if his wife called it back again on the phone or what. But when you use Signal, I don't know if you guys know about what Signal is. It is an app on your phone supposed to allow you to have encrypted calls. And when you're on that app and somebody calls you on or on your cell phone line, on your regular line, not on the app, it tends to kick you off of your Signal call. Sometimes. I think maybe they've fixed that bug now. I don't know. They still have a lot of other bugs in that. But anyway, he's claiming if you didn't catch it, to think that his wife is some kind of an agent or something. Of course, now in hindsight, I realize Wes was just acting out. He literally acting poorly, because it was so strange that he was trying to desperately get this information to the FBI and every media person that he knows, blah blah blah, and yet he fails so miserably. Even when he went back after Standing Rock, he did multiple interviews. I've showed some of them on my show, Sticks and Stones, for example, where he was interviewed by Sean Stone on Russian television.
Yeah.
And he always told me he would never be caught dead on Russian television. He talked to me about how Christina Hollenbeck immediately appeared on Russian television the day after she showed up at Standing Rock on November 20th to say that she was a medic that was rescuing people on the bridge, just like our kidnapper in the story of Kathleen Bennett. And yet there's an interview in which he's being interviewed by Sean Stone, and he talks to TYT. There's several other interviews he gives. In none of them did he bother to mention what was happening to Kathleen Bennett, ask his followers for support for her, for donations for her, for anything to get her out of jail or to help her mother who was dying in a hospital. But he wants to take the credit for being a good man.
Yeah.
Going out and doing the right thing out at Standing Rock. I have to beg to differ on that account. Because when you leave a frail woman with dementia in a hospital to die, that doesn't make you any kind of a hero, not in my eyes. And another innocent Lakota woman, an elder herself, in a jail to rot, knowing full well he knew all of the players involved. He knew Christina. He was close. His dad was close to Christina. He was close to Christina. They were close to Menape. They were close to all of the players that were involved in this crime, and there were so many. And there was a little piece in there, I don't know if you heard it, I don't know if you caught it, where he says, I think he just let it slip accidentally. He says, well, when I think about the things that people out at Standing Rock were doing for $1,000, $2,000, and $15,000 to their own, and he changed. I think he changed what he was going to say. He said to their own humanity. I think he was going to say to their own people. What you were able to pay them. You mean, because it was odd that he went from $1 to $2 to $15,000. One of the exact amounts that we know that was paid to the running Fisher by Sadef Buyek-Matan. The CFO or whatever she was of Standing Rock that was handling the money and making sure that all the veterans got reimbursed after they went out to Standing Rock in solidarity with this action with Wes Clark Jr. Now, here's the final clip that I'm going to play for you tonight, in which you will hear Wes talk about how this has impacted him, and he's the victim here. He's making himself the victim in something he helped orchestrate with his father, General Wesley Clark. And here he's trying to say, oh no, he's the victim. And then he talks about Von Bull Lodge, who he connected with, he claims, upon entering camp. He immediately connected with those two, him and another guy named Chris Turley. Put a pin in that name, because I'm about to tell you who he is in a minute. And in addition to that, he tells me that he called Tulsi Gabbard, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, because he hadn't talked to her since they were out at Standing Rock together. And he told Congresswoman Gabbard, and he told me he spoke to Congress member Ro Khanna, and I think there was another Congress member that was mentioned in our previous show. So he claims he talked to a lot of members of Congress and told them all about the Kathleen Bennett case and the work that we're doing here at 88.1 FM. And yet nobody did anything to help this woman.
Nobody contacted us at all.
Yeah, don't you think that's weird?
Yeah, I think it's really weird. Especially when someone's spreading the information around to all these people who have influence, that you would think there would be some inquiry, some email, some evidence that they're actually looking at the material. We put together a press package that we could send people to give them all the background and all the current information. And not a single person that I'm aware of actually contacted us from these sorts of leads that he presumably was doing.
Well, I know that there aren't very many reporters doing in-depth reporting or reporting for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
But I'm a paralegal by trade, so I've worked on cases that have taken 5, 6, 7 years to go to court. Sometimes they take even longer, if you can believe it. So I'm kind of used to like hanging on for a really long time and getting to the bottom of things, and then, you know, preparing it to show as evidence. And I have, you know, not rumor, hearsay, or innuendo. I've got his own words here.
Mm-hmm.
These are his own words about his involvement. He also talks about Evan Duke III, who you will see in pictures, who you've seen in pictures on this show tonight. So they're friends. He knew Evan Duke, but he speaks disparagingly about him here because by this point, I've already tied Evan Duke and Ed Higgins together, as well as with the people that were involved in the crimes against Kathleen Bennett. So he distances himself from Evan Duke and Ed Higgins. He also tells me that Higgins should be afraid, and so should Evan. And then we talk about how they were in California, Ed Higgins was, talking to Jimmy Dore, among other things, when he did an interview with me. And this was around, I talked to him I interviewed him at the very moment, okay? Minutes before, the headquarters for Veterans HQ in the camp that Wes continually refers to as Tiger Swan OP.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to throw the scent off of what his military operation was out there and blame it all on Tiger Swan. Oh, it was Tiger Swan. It was Tiger Swan. And everyone associated with the WPLC and all these Standing Rock phonies, they keep pointing the finger at Tiger Swan because they don't want the fingers pointed at them. And Bill Running Fisher and his Eagle Child Security, whatever the heck it's called, and the other mercenaries, they paid. The veterans stand for Standing Rock paid to commit crimes out there. They don't want the spotlight on them. But that Veterans OP, veteran, headquarters,
yeah,
was for the Veterans Stand. I've showed it to you. I showed it to you on the Stephen L. Day show, where the Jeffrey Day show, with the Nico House show, that I had all that stuff on there. Remember that?
Yep.
So it was the veterans. It was one of the places that you're going to hear Ed Higgins called Veterans Occupy at Standing Rock. So he came there with this weird Occupy thing, and then it changed into the Veterans HQ, and then they burned it to the ground.
Yeah.
And I immediately did a show criticizing those that burned that building. Michael Marcus, Mike Fassig, who we now know turned out to be informants for the government against water protectors, all of whom were defended valiantly by the WPLC, who couldn't be bothered to lift a finger for Kathleen Bennett, and in fact, whose people, advocates, and those who were also working or volunteering with the organization lied about Kathleen Bennett's case.
Yeah.
In the media. So listen for that, and also listen for what he says about being with Tulsi Gabbard at Standing Rock, at Cannonball, and the vets. And he also talks to me about how, again, he wrote a book, that the Serbian guy enlisted him to write. He wrote a book in 2010, excuse me, that he sold the movie rights to Bold Films. And he talks about how he was basically telling a future of what's going to really happen in America or in the world for the next 500 years. And he kind of brags about how good of a writer he is. And he actually did send me a free copy of this book. Because one of the things that he did actually follow through and said, I'm going to do this, and then did it. I'm sorry to report, I have not cracked open that email and looked at that book. Here's the last part. But wait, first, before that, I want to show you. No, let's run it all, and then I'll come back and comment.
right.
Here's that clip.
One moment.
One moment, please.
And he said, I told him everything. He said, dude, they're not going to come after you. You may find nothing. You may wind up getting trapped in something yourself, like where they'll try and entrap you into breaking the law.
Mm-hmm.
Or he goes, or you may find the smoking gun. He goes, but I think finding the smoking gun is the least likely outcome. But here's the thing. This thing's really affected me. And since you are collecting all this evidence, I want to sue the fuck out of these people when we find out who pays them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I want to sue them to the point where I'm living in a fucking mansion and have a jet sue them. Because these people have fucked my head up.
Yeah. Yeah.
What if I knew Aaron Brockovich?
Well, if you knew Erin Brockovich, then maybe you could get her. Let me tell you something. Why do you think I didn't go and get my law degree? Why do you think I quit my path and became an organizer?
Because there's no actual justice in the legal system?
That's right, Wesley. That's exactly right.
I've been through a divorce.
There is, and family court is the worst. Family court is the most corrupt of all of the legal systems. Let me tell you. Family court, but also the criminal court system is completely rigged. The bail system is corrupt. And if you're talking about the, workers' comp is a rigged system as well. Workers' comp was created to keep the working man from being able to sue any company for the real damages done to them.
Mm-hmm.
If workers' comp didn't exist, working people would have much more power over corporations in this country.
Yeah.
In fact, it is precisely because of the fact that they created a workers' comp system that we don't have any power as workers in this country.
No, that's true. I mean, everything is quite literally rigged, as I discovered at Standing Rock. Even the news. Even
Yes.
things you think you know about are wrong.
And the thing is, at the end of the day, all of his erratic behavior, the stuff that your wife is doing, a lot of it amounts to they care about you and they're worried. That's it.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not involved in this for ego. I'm involved with this because I really fucking care about truth, justice, and the American way, and I'm fucking sick of lies everywhere.
I agree, but the point is that they can be scared. Other people around you can feel scared and concerned. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, just quit talking to him about it.
Well, I mean, is it productive? Is it helpful to you when you do talk to those people?
No.
So,
That's a good point.
sometimes it's just better not to tell them because then you don't have to deal with that shit.
Yeah, no. I'm just gonna quit telling them. Because, look, there is literally an innocent woman in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Who may never see her mother again.
I know.
Who, for all we know, may never see her son again.
I know.
If these people are as bad as we think they are.
Hey, when I heard that he was there to intimidate her on the day they transported her to court,
Mm-hmm.
I freaked out. And there's just too many things that have happened back to back. They lost her paperwork. The lawyer couldn't get any information on her. They wouldn't tell anybody what jail she was in. It's like, what the hell is going on? And she was really concerned about that. She doesn't really talk about being uncomfortable. She's a really tough lady, you know that? She asks about her mom. She's worried about her mom, but she's not complaining about being in jail. She's mentioned that she has back problems and that she doesn't get her medication. It's really rough on her.
Mm-hmm.
But she always talks about how she's really strong and she'll be fine. She's more worried about her mom. But she did tell her son she was very concerned about them moving her to that big jail.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm sure.
And when you were telling me earlier that you were in a car with
Von Bull Lodge and Chris, what's his name?
Chris,
the guy who walked up from Oklahoma.
Yeah, that guy. And that they told you about this elder woman. I remembered something. I was like, wait a minute. What happened on the day before December 2nd? They tried to take Mary, well, they did take Mary to IHS. And they probably were planning on this fake story to go with their sending her to that hospital the day before. But when she got there, they made her wait in the fucking lobby for 5 hours. And she's diabetic and, you know, she needs to be cared for with her specific foods and medicines, etc. So they got tired of waiting. And when they saw that one of the last people they recognized from the Red Warrior camp was leaving, who was on the security team for the Red Warriors, she asked them if they could go back to the camp and send a vehicle back to pick her and her mother up and take them back to camp. And she still waited another 2 hours, Wes, and the Red Warrior people came back to get them, and they still hadn't been seen by the doctor. So they literally sent this woman and her mom there, and they just stranded them without a ride back. I don't think they intended for them to come back to camp that time. Or,
I mean, he literally said, I mean, I remembered it so distinctly because I mentioned it to a couple of the other people. I'm like, dude, he says they found an 80-year-old woman who'd been raped with her diapers around her ankle. So nothing like that happened before I came to camp?
No. And you know what Kathleen told me from jail? She said, Cindy, do you know that Mulaney was trying to get them to do a rape kit on my mom?
No fucking way.
And I said, what?
No fucking way.
I said, what are you talking about? She said, yes, she was trying to get her to have a rape kit. And I heard that Sarah Matuzak, the medic.
I don't know. I don't think I know her.
She's a black woman with no hair. She's a former cop in Milwaukee. She's also a firefighter and an EMT. She has the same backstory that she gave away everything or sold everything so she could go and be a medic at Standing Rock. She was connected to Ed Higgins as well.
Whoa.
And in fact, the way that I found her is because I was trying to find her Facebook page and I typed in Sarah Matuzak, but instead I found posts from Ed Higgins talking about a Sarah Echo. And I clicked on her page and I'm like, found you. And then I was going down her page and she was pictured with this guy named Joshua Pepper. And he was also mentioned in the discovery documents as a person that gave a statement against Kathleen. And the cops couldn't read his statement, so they listed him as Josina Pepper. So every time I talk about it, because Morton County did such shoddy work, they didn't even check. They didn't even try to talk to the dude or anything. And they couldn't read his handwriting, so they called him Josina Pepper. So I've been looking for a Josina Pepper and couldn't find anything, anywhere. And all of a sudden I find Joshua Pepper and I'm like, oh, Joshua. Let me go back and...
It's amazing how much they use Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that reminds me. Oh, fuck, I just spaced out. I just figured out another piece of the puzzle.
Did you ever hear a person named Mimi Dills who was a medic?
No, I would have to see. I'm much better with faces than I am with names.
I have no face to put to this. It's one of the names.
Oh, I know what it is. What about that guy who goes by the name Tawasi?
Tawasi?
Tawasi, because this woman goes by Tawani.
Mm-hmm.
And you think maybe Tawasi and Tawani are both working for the same person?
I don't know, but I have seen that name recently. People have been sending me a flurry of messages. And there's this one particular woman who everybody thinks is crazy. And she's been posting...
Do you mind if I eat while we talk? I left a message for Tulsi Gabbard.
You did?
Mm-hmm. Last week.
What did you say?
I said, it's Wes Clark Jr. First, I wanted to thank you for coming out to Standing Rock, because I don't think we've spoken on the phone since then, but that some of the people who were around you, you may not be aware of it, but they were working for private military companies, and they're wrapped up in something that is dark.
Mm-hmm.
And she's going to call me about it next week, I think.
Cool. Yeah, because Ed Higgins trotted her out all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And him and Evan Duke the third.
They're always, they're partners.
Mm-hmm. All of these people have been blowing up Maggie today. Poor girl, she's been freaked out. Like, her nerves are wrecked. Because I've been reaching out to her, and I don't know if she can control herself and not talk to them and just, like, let them stew.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're trying to freak her out. I mean, that's why...
I will tell you, it's very likely that the two scary-looking men who were looking at me outside the FBI building today were FBI agents.
Yes.
That is possible, because I did make the call over a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And these Ed Higgins and Evan Duke better be really fucking careful about harassing people online, because I have a feeling there's a lot of people looking at them right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And karma is coming.
Oh, he posted apologies to me and Missy and to Maggie. Those three people, he posted apologies today.
Ed Higgins did?
Yes.
For what?
Well, it was kind of a backhanded apology. I mean, to Missy, it didn't even sound like an apology. So when I told her it was an apology, she was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, that was an apology, Missy." He basically called her a scumbag liar and said that he never raped her. And then, but at the very end, he said, "It is going to be so hard for me, but I forgive you." And then he said one for me, and to me it was like, he forgives me for being a soulless, sick person, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he forgives Maggie for accusing him of burning down the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock HQ at the camp when he was thousands of miles away.
How is he thousands of miles away?
He was in California at the time that Michael Marcus and Michael Fassig burned that building down.
What the fuck was he doing in California?
He was at a thing I interviewed him when he was there, and he was at a bar, and there was a fundraiser for some member of Congress or something. It was not Tulsi Gabbard. It was another name that he told me. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But he was, he always brags about what he's doing. So he's like, "I'm going to go to this thing march next week, and I was with Tulsi Gabbard," and he's always name dropping, always.
Mm-hmm.
So he was telling...
That's how they establish credibility.
Right, and that's exactly what he was trying to do with me. Maggie was the one that gave me his number, and I told her, "Do you think you could get him to talk to me? Because he's got a lot of information, and if I can get him to talk to me, I'm going to draw it out of him."
Mm-hmm.
But without him figuring out that I'm on to him, And so I went through someone that he was basically stalking at the time, Maggie. So he took my call, and right after my interview with him, he does a live stream talking about the burning building back at Ochetti. And I was so fucking mad. I was like livid because I had talked to Russell and he had told me that he had overheard Vaughn, or Vaughn told him point blank because he asked him about overhearing that they were going to burn buildings and that they were going to destroy supplies, etc. And so he said, he confronted him and they said, yeah, they were going to burn this shit down. And so they went around and started to try to collect things so that they could be used by the people and not destroyed by these veteran cleanup crews that were led by L'Oreal and Vaughn. And when I saw that fucking building burning by the same crew that was working with them, consisting of Michael Marcus, Michael Fassig, Olive Bias, and all these other people, I wigged out. I was like, these motherfuckers, they are doing the thing. I didn't even know that that place was supposedly Tiger Swan OP.
Bro, I had no fucking doubt about it.
Yeah, I had no clue that that was a possibility. But I did talk to this one guy that works security out there. I don't know if you met him. His name was...
Yep, I've talked to him, and he's the only person I fucking believe.
Me too. But he told me that somebody did authorize for that building to be burned, but not in that manner and not in the middle of the night. And that the way that they did it was really sketch. So, he also told me that there was a guy that was always with Vaughn, whose name they never knew, that they called Two Braids. And that when they kicked...
Not only do I know who Two Braids is, he fucking, like, wrote me right when I got back and criticized me for shit.
Who was he? Who is he?
You know what? I'm gonna look him up right now. Let me just, I've got... Do you mind if I have a cigarette first?
No, I'm smoking one right now.
Okay, awesome. See, and then that makes me think, fuck, man, maybe you are like the double head fuck at the end of this thing.
Me?
Like, you smoke, there's, both been through trauma, sending me on stories. I mean, seriously, it's the way my head's working now. It's like I can't trust anybody.
I know, I've thought the same thing about you. Especially because you're connected to... Because you're connected to the young church. Yeah, I know. But you know what I also know? Like, I've been doing this for a long fucking time. And that's my nature. It's my nature. I didn't really end up wanting to step into something that included all of this shit. But I was hell-bent on exposing what people did to Kathleen and Mary.
Yeah, you got an outsized sense of justice.
No, I know, and I told you this before, that all of the things that they tell us in society are the places where we can go and get justice are frauds. Yeah, I mean, there's a physical building there, and you can go and report a thing like you just tried to do.
Get an innocent person out of jail.
I'm talking about going somewhere where people tell you there will be people to help you, and there isn't any help.
That happens all the time.
All the time. And as a person of color, that has been my entire life.
See,
and
my wife doesn't get the color thing because she's never lived in the Midwest. She's only lived in Los Angeles and Queens.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw her make a bit of a face when you said like how women of color do, because she's never, like, the only place she's been in the Midwest is like, Denver to meet with a cable executive. So she doesn't get it. I mean, unless, really, I think most white Americans don't get it unless they've been to the Dakotas or like southern Texas or certain parts of the South. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, but I can only speak from my experience as who I am, and I am a woman of color, and I've been gaslighted my entire life by white people saying, "Oh, well, go and report that to the police. Well, you should sue them, or go to the Department of Labor and report that, or go to the EEOC, or do this." And I worked in the legal system, and I did those things, and I know that they are fronts. They don't do shit. They stop people from actually doing the shit that they need to do. And they traumatize people. in the process. They persecute them for even trying to get justice. That's what the justice system really is, and that's why I do what I do. Because the only thing left is to expose and shame people. That's it.
That's pretty true.
And you know what?
It's like
I'll take it. I'll take it. If that's all there is, I will take it. I also am an avid believer in the idea that everyone should have to read the Bible, especially white people, because.
But actually read it. Actually read it. Not sit in church.
No, start to finish, all of the books in order. Read them, start to finish, because I always tell people. My people were killed for that shit, and you can't even bother to look at it? Come on now. Like,
they don't even practice it.
Right.
They don't even practice it.
That is the truth, and that's what I do. I just tell the truth, and if people reject it, they're rejecting the truth. They're not rejecting me. I don't even take it personally.
I know who that two-guy braids is, guy that you were talking about, because everybody was saying, stolen valor, man, stolen valor. About him. Still scrolling, it just brings back bad memories, scrolling through all these fucking messages from when I just got back. It's all fucking death threats and shit.
Myron Dewey and that Dean Dedman were on their radar because they kept giving away intelligence with their drones to Morton County. And he said that that Myron was responsible for giving away the location of some of their safety equipment for water rescues, and they lost like 28 boats.
Wow.
And he also, he wasn't trying to defend JR, but he felt that JR was done wrong.
Yeah.
And these people really had it out. The people that were working with Michael Wood Jr., that he left in place back at the camp.
How do I find messages I've sent on Facebook?
Go to your messages, and then you just go to see all at the bottom.
Fuck.
And it will open up a window. Like when you click on the message icon thing, at the bottom it'll say see all, and then it'll open a window for you so that you can look at all of them. And then there's a search bar at the very top on the left hand corner.
Well, this is different. This is of a site I manage.
Oh.
For the page. Fuck. Don't find it. Just to re-roll shit sent. Not the shit that was sent to me. I have like
your voice is getting all robotic.
It's getting robotic. Surgers. Well, I'll eventually find it. Everybody said that guy was stolen valor.
Well, he never gave anybody his name, but the other person.
Hours to go through it.
The other person's.
He had a name.
The other person that was hanging out with them was Theron Begay, and he apparently is some kind of a builder, and he is now, along with Fonbo Lodge, heading up other camps.
Man, shifty motherfuckers.
Yeah, that's very concerning.
Shifty motherfuckers.
So don't forget that.
Listen, don't for a second think I'm not massively wrapped up in whatever the fuck that story is. Because that apology was part of it. Because it's showing people the way that you don't have to hate that dead people in their honor because they didn't have any to begin with. You don't have to fight over all the dumb shit we're fighting over. And you know what? Apologies don't fucking cost anything. The problem is that in this country, people confuse pride and honor, and they're two entirely different fucking things. And this country has no honor. We haven't honored a single fucking treaty with anyone we've signed one with. We don't honor our veterans. We don't honor, like, public education system. We don't honor taking care of the elderly or the sick or the infirm or the weak.
Right.
And I tell you, when fucking Jesus comes back and all these dipshit right-wing Confederate anti-Christians, like, they all think, oh, Jesus is going to come back with a sword in his mouth and kill all these non-believers. That sword in his mouth is truth.
Yep.
Because the truth cuts fucking deep. And until we fucking tell the truth as a people and be honest with everything, everyone's going to continue being fucked up because lies twist people. I will tell you the other thing is, since this whole thing's begun, I don't trust a single motherfucker with tattoos I run across. Sorry if you have any, but I just fucking don't trust them.
I have never gotten a single tattoo on my body. And I've always told my children.
I'm very happy to hear that. Neither has my wife.
I don't think that it's about trusting, though. It's about testing.
Well, yeah, because Jesus says test the spirit.
Right, but it's also you have to learn how to do it faster. You have to learn how to discern things more quickly. And the way that
I was able to discern everybody who was off out there, which was everybody that I came across.
Right.
All I was concerned about was I want to make sure no one dies while we're out here, and in that it's not a total fucking wreck.
I have to tell you something that I hadn't told you about. About a week ahead of the announcement from the Army Corps of Engineers about the denial of the easement, I was told that Winona LaDuke was being sought because she was out on a ride or something, and people on the tribal council, I heard through a friend, were looking for her to let her know she needed to get to Standing Rock because they were going to make this announcement on the 4th. And I knew about that a week before. And so I was like looking at all these people like, what the fuck? Like everybody's getting to a location for a this is all orchestrated.
Listen, I knew about it 10 minutes before. We had that formation with Tulsi down near Cannonball. And it was like 12:30, or I think I left there at 2:30, and I got a call from some guy who said he was in charge of Veterans Affairs at the White House, and he said, stay tuned, the president's going to make an announcement at 3.
Well, I'm telling you, I knew about it a week ahead. So when I saw that the veterans were going to be coming right at exactly the moment when the announcement was going to be made, I had a check. I was like, what the fuck is going to go down? Why is this happening?
You understand, Cindy, I shot a last will and testament before I went out there.
Yeah.
I went out there ready to fucking die.
Well, when I saw...
Glad I didn't.
When I saw what was going to happen, I was really suspect of the whole thing because it was all orchestrated from that point forward. That's what I'm telling you right now, Wes. Everything.
No, listen. That's why I think the whole thing was orchestrated from the beginning. From the time that Sean Stone contacted me and sent James Martinez to contact me to put Phyllis on the phone with me, they already had it. They just didn't know the date. And I gave them the date. Which was the date I picked. The beginning of November. And everything moved forward from that date. It took them a week to get Task and Purpose on board and set that ball in motion, whatever money they were going to put into it to blow it up, to talk to Michael Wood, although I tend to think Michael Wood was corrupt long before I met him.
Yeah. Well, he speaks about the corruption in the Baltimore Police Department. He knows about it enough. He said he did a lot of the shit that everybody else did.
I don't know. I've gotten through my life. I mean, Yeah, I lied to my first wife. I cheated on her a couple times. But, I mean, other than that, I'm a fucking honest person. I've never robbed anybody. I've never conned anybody. I've never fucking stolen anything or beaten someone up out of the blue. Or
out of the blue? I love that qualifier.
Well, I mean, there's some people who are going to get in a fight with you, and there's nothing you can really do about it.
No, I know.
But I always try and avoid it at every chance, because usually the cost of avoiding stuff like that is just words, and words are fucking free.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have any pride. Pride's a fucking stupid emotion.
It is.
They wreck fucking everything because they all have to be so much better than everyone around them, even though they're all just as fucking insignificantly human as everybody around them.
Well, everybody is protecting their reputation. Everyone has a reputation.
Yeah, well, we both know those reputations are all bullshit. I don't have any reputation at all.
And I'm okay.
There are in fact people who have been paid. When you put all the money together, there's probably been at least $1 million spent trying to destroy my reputation.
Oh yeah.
And I don't even have one.
They definitely try to destroy you.
Oh, for sure. But that's also what's so funny about. I mean, look. Yeah. Do I want someone to kill me? No. Do I think people are following me? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like, how ridiculous is all of this? It's just like, a lot of the hate mail I got from people when I got home was from like, you know, you look at their profile and it's always like, they're lifting weights, they have giant arms, and they've got a gun! And it's like, and these people are calling me cowards. And it's like, dude, I don't need to jack my muscles up and carry a gun to make it through the world. Like, I can get through life without that.
Yeah.
And survive.
Mm-hmm.
So who's the fucking coward? That's what they don't get.
Mm-hmm.
God, it's so frustrating.
Well,
and I don't hate them for it because they're living in this, like, bubble of deceit. It's like Plato's cave. You know, they don't know they're in the fucking cave.
yes, or like the Matrix.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's exactly how I fucking live. I have no shame. That's what they don't get. I mean, there's tons of stuff about me you don't know, and when people expose it, if it's embarrassing, I don't even care. I'm sure there's like 10 nations in the world that have like video of me jerking off in front of my computer. Don't care. Don't care. Don't care, because everybody does it. Don't care.
Right. Right. Yeah. I don't do respectability politics. We're all humans. But
totally. But also, that's the future, though. Do you understand? Because that's how they've controlled people, like the soft velvet glove with the iron hand inside of it. That's how they've controlled people for years. But now with the internet and the ability for people to say, wow, everybody masturbates. Wow, everybody does this. Wow, this is like, everybody's the same, regardless of their religion or race or anything else, when it comes to usually the fundamental things people are looking for in life.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't be able to keep playing that fucking game because, look, I was always the poor kid among rich kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're no morally better than anybody else, and they're no smarter than anybody else, and they're no better people than anybody else. They just have more money.
Yep. Yeah, I know that. I have moved in circles of people with money, and I'm always like shocked at the things that they lack.
Oh, money's about luck, timing, and a certain amount of sociopathy.
Yeah. And it helps if you're white, because...
Oh, huge. But I gotta tell you, if I were black, I'd be killing it right now.
Do you think so?
Oh, man, let me tell you, being the one place, like being the white guy, look, I'm a white guy writer in Hollywood with a name like Clark. I didn't go to USC, I didn't do any of that stuff. I've had a shitty fucking career. And I'm a really good writer. Like, you should read some of the scripts I've written. They're really fucking good. I will tell you this, I did pitch you to a friend of mine named Lisa Hamilton, that's the head of Lifetime Films.
Mm-hmm.
I said, you gotta watch this woman, Cindy Gomez, because she's like a woman alone in Idaho about to solve a massive, gigantic story involving human trafficking, mercenaries, and oil.
Yeah.
So, when all this shit is done, trust me, you'll be known.
Well, I've never really cared about that, and frankly,
No, me neither. I've just cared about doing the right thing. Well, just to stoke your paranoia, if you want to know the crazy conspiracy theory I heard right after the election, I heard they plan to eventually go to war down there.
I've known that for a while.
Like, that I find terrifying.
I've known that for a while. That's the only way.
No, I have too. I mean, look, not to feed into my crazy superstition, but you should really read this book I wrote in 2010. I self-published it in 2015. I sold the movie rights to Bold Films. It's like a history of the next 500 years. And I've got a war with Mexico. I've got a leader in the United States who's exactly like Duterte. And the main bad guy, admittedly smarter and a little more suave than Trump, but is a bottomless pit billionaire who can't take enough from humanity.
Wow. You're like a prophet.
And I wrote it. And I don't know if this is real or imaginary or I've got some mental disease, but I wrote it at a time of really high stress in my life. I mean, I wrote this entire book in 1 month.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like 300-something pages. I wrote it's made up of short stories that all fit together for one master narrative. And I felt this strange, I can only describe it as a vibration in my heart as I wrote it, where I felt, fuck, this is not coming from me. And I felt the same fucking thing at Standing Rock and the whole journey to that.
I'm telling you.
Like I had that same buzz in my heart.
Wow.
You really got to read that book. It's called Dreadnought.
Dreadnought.
Dreadnought. Not like dreadnought like a ship. Just dread, and then second word, not, N-O-T. It's on Amazon. I could actually PDF you a copy if you want.
I'm going to read it.
Oh, I lay out reality.
I am an avid reader. Well, I read a book.
You may not like science fiction, though, and it's kind of science fiction-y.
Well, you're right about that. I'm not a big fan of science fiction, although I do watch science fiction, and I am a fan of some science fiction, even though I find it to be racist.
Oh yeah, no, I put plenty of racism. I put plenty of racism in my scripts.
Because the reason why I think that sci-fi is utilized to talk about race issues is because we can't talk about them in real life without being attacked. And so it's a convenient way of discussing racism without having to get attacked. But at the same time, I think that it also shields us from having to talk about like the real dynamics of supremacy. Instead of calling it racism, supremacy, white supremacy, you know?
No, I write all my books from the standpoint of white male. I make no disclaimers about it because that's the only reality I know. Even though I will say that being an only child and having to move every 2 years of my life to radically different situations, I do not identify with white people. I am, and I've always been treated like the other. So I know what it is to be treated like the other and beaten and robbed and just, I had a shitty childhood.
Yeah, I hear you. But, you know.
You must have too, because I put up windmills in Iowa, and holy fuck, that place is whitest place in the world.
Yep. Yep. I learned a lot from that time. And when I was telling you the story about
Hold on. I think my wife is upstairs and she just called me and she needs me. Let me call you back in a few.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, bye. Oh. How do you feel about what he was doing there, Duke? Like he was talking about masturbating a lot, and that was just awkward as hell.
That was really weird stuff, talking about his porn habits and being...
And his wife, the way he talked about his wife.
Yeah, and I tell you, Wes, you are white. You know, it's like you don't get away from that. Just because you traveled around 32 times, moving around with your father around the world, doesn't make you any less white.
Or privileged. I mean, this guy, he's trying to act like he was some poor kid raised on the wrong side of the tracks.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in Hollywood. His dad's a 4-star general that ran for president. You're privileged.
Yep.
You have more than most people have. That's just a fact, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't want to own that. Remember, this is from a year ago. So for those of you that are just joining us, this is our third hour on Mexican Crossing Lines with Sydney Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
Here on 88.1 FM, KPPPLP, Fargo-Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And I am playing, for the third show in a row, the calls I had with Wesley Clark Jr. on June 16 of 2017.
Exactly.
About him reporting the criminal activity of an operation that he was involved in at Standing Rock with the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock. And he's been, for the entire time that he's been talking to me, throwing one person and after another under the bus that he was actually working with and surrounding himself with the entire time he was out there and afterwards. I mean, now that you've heard that he hosted a party at his LA house, not only for 2 Turkish people that run the Turkish Forum, a propaganda media outlet for the dictator Erdogan.
Yep.
They also bought a submarine to improve Turkish-American relations that is in his daddy's state, in General Clark's state.
Yep. And
he has met with General Clark, Sedef Buyukataman's dad, Kaya Alet Buyukataman, both of whom appear in the WikiLeaks documents about Erdogan's son-in-law's emails, Barat, in the Barat's box leaks. A number of times, over 30-some times, Kaya and his daughter both appear in the WikiLeaks. And General Clark is having a meeting with them on November 20th at Wesley Clark's house, right? And so he connects to all of these people, and so does his father. And so we have Christina Hollenbeck that orchestrated the kidnapping and the false reports that were given to the police about Kathleen Bennett. And she's connected to this billionaire organization, Nexus. Mary Ann Thompson Frank is connected to this organization. She is also mentioned, and he tells me in one of the calls that I'm going to play that Mary Ann Thompson Frank has been one of the other people that he suspects. In the following days after this call, I had a number of calls with him in which he continues to blame all of these people that are very closely connected directly to him and his father, General Wesley Clark. Now, I'm going to explain a couple of things in there that you heard that he was talking about. So Wes claims, and this is a year ago. Now, of course, in hindsight, I know he was connected to all of the criming that happened out at Standing Rock directly. But at the time, he claimed to be very surprised to learn that I was interviewing Ed in California. And he said, what the hell was he doing there? Yeah. It's where you live in California, Wesley Clark Jr. So you probably had Ed over to your house, because I can't believe that he didn't know who Ed was. You saw him in all those pictures that we were running during the interviews.
Exactly.
He's standing right next to Wes Clark and Tulsi Gabbard. Not only Higgins, but also Evan Duke III. And those people were connected to Maggie Day, one of the people he hired to go out and do PR out there, along with Seven McDonald, the daughter of Country Joe McDonald, who also was hired by Wes to go out there and do PR for the Stand for Veterans at Standing Rock. He orchestrated all of that. And the Hollywood people that came out there, all of the extras that appeared in the documentary he got featured in. Yeah, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they were trying to revive his dead acting career.
Maybe.
Or give him an acting career where none existed. I don't know what Wes and his dad were planning. I hope that the government, the State Department, the FBI are all going to investigate both the general, Wesley Clark, and as well as his son for their involvement in the crimes that were committed out at Standing Rock. The fraud that was committed against the people of America at Standing Rock, and the elevation of these fake sold out Native Americans like Chase Iron Eyes that sold out his own people, like LaDonna, like Phyllis Young, and all of the other people that went to Burning Man, like Dan and Nimkin, like Myron Dewey,
Chase
Chumash, Chase Iron Eyes. I want to show you what Ed was doing out there and why it makes it so unbelievable to me that Wesley Clark Jr. had no idea about any of this. You know, his lies just keep growing and growing. And of course, now that I've got this all captured on audio, I can go through with the fine-tooth comb and look into every single one of his claims.
Yep.
Here is a reminder of the burning of the building and the live stream that Ed Higgins did right after he talked to me on the phone, right after I interviewed him on that same day. Here's that video and the footage that we were able to save of the burning building.
Yep.
All right, guys, Ed Higgins here, live on Hollywood Boulevard. Is that where we're at? Yeah. I never know where I'm at. Okay, so we're going to talk about this HQ. So our HQ is on fire. It's controlled demolition. It's due to intelligence that was on the walls. No need to worry. Everybody is okay at Ochedi Shakawi. The HQ is actually at the end of Flag Road to the left. There's actually a barracks still next to it. That is okay. They're actually going to take that apart, and they're going to move it probably to LaDonna's land. But the HQ hit my heart, but, it's got to get taken down. So that's what happened. Let everybody know. Unfortunately, Rattler took down the video, so now you can't see the update. But share this out. Let everybody know everything is okay. Nobody died, and information was decimated. In 10 seconds or less, Inspector Gadget style. Oh. All right. Love you guys. Peace.
This is the guy that was supported by Frances Fisher, the actress, online. Every single one of his posts, every single one of his tweets. She is in the Bernie Avengers chat that I showed you, where she is offering Shailene Woodley's mother, the actress Shailene Woodley, and her mother's money to support Ed's desire to bring a bunch of military equipment and weapons into the camp. I also showed you that Ed Higgins was involved with that HQ and some kind of Veterans Occupy that you'll hear him talk about in just a second. But guess who is doing the interview? Why, it's none other than Jimmy Dore. Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Dore had to have been hanging out with Ed because he was outside of the building where he told me in the interview that I did with him, he was at a fundraiser for some Congress member. Oh. And so was Jimmy Dore. And this Jimmy Dore, as well as Lee Camp, that appears in videos with TYT, Cenk Uygur, Steve-O, and Michael A. Wood Jr. promoting the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock in the GoFundMe that raised over $1.4 million so that people like Ed Higgins could be paid. And the reason why later on Wesley Clark Jr. begins to say that this man, Ed Higgins, is Tiger Swan, just like he says that the Veterans HQ was Tiger Swan OP, is because all of these people tie back to him. And all of his crew and all of his staff for the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock. He's the one responsible for these fake Indians. He would know about, he asked me in one of those clips, so the thing about Mary and a woman being raped, an elderly woman being raped out at the camp, you never heard of anything like that going on out there? No, but you know what I did hear? I heard that you were hanging out with the fake Indian Red Wolf Pope that has just been arrested for rape. Because you told me about it, Wesley.
Yeah.
And you told You took that rapist to meet Josh and Ren, the two witnesses, the first people that reached out to us about Kathleen Bennett's case. That's who you took to that meeting. A guy that pretended to be an Indian, just like Grandma Patricia in the video I showed you earlier with Mulaney Stoneman, the kidnapper. That's who you hang out with, all of these criminals. And you didn't know that your buddy Jimmy Dore from TYT was interviewing Ed Higgins and that he was in California. I bet he came to your house. I bet he stayed at your house, Wes. Here's the video of Jimmy Dore.
Hi, I'm here with Ed Higgins. He just came back from DAPL, North Dakota. Tell me what's happened. What's the state of things going on up there?
Well, it's cold. The last video that I had up there, my beard froze. It's about minus 35 with the wind chill factor. It's just about survival right now. I mean, people still have their heads up. The spirit's still high. We have walkers that came in from Canada the other day, walked into camp over the border and into camp.
Really?
We have people still dancing. There's still ceremony out there, but the people are lacking in supplies. They really could use supplies, wood, just simple stuff. They just want to survive through.
So is there a way that people watching this video can help people get supplies?
It's really reaching out to the individuals at this point,
okay,
because there's no real supply feed going through. Plus, the tribes have stepped back. The Standing Rock Sioux tribe has stepped back.
Okay.
So really, it's finding people like Michael Marcus, any of your people that you follow on Facebook. Please find them and find a way to get supplies to them.
Okay.
That's the best way to go.
Okay, but are you optimistic about what's going to happen up there? Are you any prognosis?
I'm actually going back. So I got pictures of my own camp. We have a camp inside Oceti called Occupy Veterans, where we have veterans still there. They're still fighting the good fight for the people to support the powerful movement. We are going there to help them clean up the surrounding area, because when the snow hit, all the tents fell. So all the tents are underneath the snow. They need to be cleaned up, because if we don't, then we're just doing exactly what we were fighting against, which is polluting the river. We were in a floodplain, so once the floodplain, basically floods, all the tents go downriver. We have to clean it up.
So it seems like the violent confrontations have been ceased for a while. Is that the case?
They have.
So is that because the cops decided to back off, or is that because the drilling hasn't started, or that's been canceled temporarily?
I think it's a little bit of both. Right now, there's not much drilling taking place, and there's a lot of slowdown with the energy transfer partners because they're hemorrhaging money all over the place. There's pipelines that have been shut down because of good work we did out there, the water protectors did out there. They are just in damage control mode, and they're still trying to put out propaganda. The police are still trying to recover. They're getting hit with lawsuits for all their abuses that they've done. It's just become a nightmare for them, and that's good, because they shouldn't have acted so inhumane in the first place.
Yeah, inhumane is a better word. I was going to say aggressively.
Yeah.
So now, do you know anything about what's happening in Texas?
There is, yeah. So Luis and all the water protectors down at Big Bend doing some great work. We have 4 camps set up down there. We have 4 camps set up in Florida, and that's not me overall. I mean, that's the water protectors are just it's expanding. It's flowing to the 4 winds. There's a lot of good work. There's some people that got arrested the other day, but you can go to Big Bend stands. There's a whole bunch of different water protector groups out there that are focusing on what their fight down there every day.
You're going to be at the inaugural?
I'm going to be at the Occupy inauguration. I'll be speaking. I actually have veterans that are escorting me to the stage, because I'm going to say a lot of things that a lot of people may not want to hear.
Which people?
The people who think Trump's the enemy. Trump is a bad guy, but he's not the enemy. The system is the enemy. We created the system. We allowed the system to form. Whether I was, I'm only 4 years old. You're a little younger than I am. Whether we were there or not, we saw it happening. We saw it coming. And right now, we all have to fight for the common cause, which is to break up this disgusting system that we have.
So, do you think it's easier or harder now that Trump is president?
Oh no, I think it's a lot easier. I got to tell you, I was kind of rooting for him to go, because he's a disaster. The guy's a disaster. He's the most despicable human being I've never met. Maybe more despicable than Hillary. We'll talk about that some other day.
He's worse at hiding it than she is.
He's a con man, and he's conned everybody. He's trolled everybody. and now we get to see it because he's even taking health care away from the people he told he was going to give health care to.
Right. So I don't think these people would be out here today if Hillary Clinton, neoliberal, was president, correct?
No, unfortunately. So you either had to be a nationalist or a racist. You either had to be okay with our citizens bombing other countries and being engaged in 8 illegal wars where the death happened somewhere else, or you get to deal with it here. Now we get to deal with it here. I'm okay with that.
Yes.
No, divisive is what they're doing. If you're just saying, hey, my team is better than your team, you're not helping the problem. I want a solution to a problem. You got a problem, give me a solution. If you're not giving me a solution, you're part of the problem.
Fantastic.
Right on.
I agree. All right.
I love your work, bro.
Great.
I love your work. Oh, love this guy.
Love this guy, he says.
Yeah.
Like, he also put out pictures, which I've shown you here on my shows in the past, of himself with Lee Camp, which is on Russian television. They're all connected to the things I've shown you before that connect back to Sean Stone and literally the InfoWars channel with Roger Stone, one of the President Trump's advisors. And haven't you noticed there's a way that they talk about the president? He said, I was actually rooting for Trump because he's a despicable, horrible person.
That's right.
What? You know, that sounds a lot like the Russian Sputnik reporter
Cassandra
Fairbanks that went from being a Bernie bro to becoming a Trump supporter, or so many of these other false progressives that actually turned out to be Trump supporters. And that now are trying to deny that there was any Russian collusion into hacking the election in 2016 when there appears to be increasing evidence, inevitable evidence, that there was. And a little bird told me that Wes was thinking he was going to get on the Trump transition team.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I think maybe him and his daddy were trying to get their foot in the political door again.
Yeah.
And they went and tried to protect his pipeline and the pipeline infrastructures that were being worked on with their own little hidden organizations, hidden military operations funded by secret laundered money, as Wes himself put it in the interviews that you have heard, which he claims to have reported himself to the FBI on a number of occasions. He says 5, his wife said 2, and also to the police, and yet he has no proof of it, of any of it. Well, let me show you some of the other connections. Okay. Again, this is very interesting. Remember, he talks about one of these veterans that he says were the first people he contacted or, connected with at the camp with Von Balaj and Chris Turley, the veteran who walked from Oklahoma to Standing Rock. And that is this guy right here. You remember this guy?
Oh, God, yeah.
And it's, what can you read the headline there, honey?
Yeah. Pawhuska veteran calls walk to Standing Rock protest an amazing experience. Chris Turley, former senior scout observer, Scout Recon, Scout Sniper Platoon, 101st Airborne Division, Veterans of War Afghanistan, Purple Heart recipient, Army Commendation with a V device, and on and on and on.
And on and on and on. And let me, this is on December 4, 2016, just two days before Bill Running Fisher claims that he found Mary in a tent, freezing, naked, and covered in excrement and urine at the camp.
Yep.
The basis for which Kathleen Bennett was put in jail and had her mother taken from her. And her mother was put in an early grave. The basis for that crime happened just 2 days after Chris Turley shows up at Standing Rock. And who does he show up with? With the Wounded Warriors Project. Now, I'm going to tell you something about Wounded Warriors Project that you probably didn't know, Duke.
All right.
When I was investigating more about Maggie, as I realized that she and Seven are both connected to Wes and that he had hired both of them and they do PR on behalf of him for the Standing Rock thing, I looked into their back history and it looks like not only Maggie, but also Josie, her sister, who we met, ended up working on these veterans organizations PR in the past. It's on their LinkedIn. It's what they've done before. And one of those things that they worked closely with was veterans organizations, and one of them specifically was the Wounded Warrior Project.
Oh.
And I believe shortly before that Wounded Warrior Project was being looked into for mishandling of funds, misappropriation of funds, or being one of those organizations, one of those many, many veterans organizations that claims to raise money for veterans and then pockets the majority of it for who knows what and who knows who, and gives a very, very small sliver, a very small percentage of those monies intended for veterans to the veterans. And one of those organizations being examined more closely was the Wounded Warrior Project in recent years. And guess what? That's exactly who Wes meets up with right when he gets to the camp. But guess who appears in a video upon arrival to camp with Chris Turley? Why, it's none other than Ernesto Burbank of
yes.
Relatives in Prayer. And it says that he is his brother. I don't know if that means like blood brother or...
I know, or actual
brother, or like, my bro.
Yeah.
Here's a little clip of that video.
How's it going, everybody? My name's Ernesto. Some of you guys know me from the front lines, and we just barely touched down with my brother Chris. And he's walked all the way from Oklahoma, and he's gonna enlighten us with his journey all the way up here for his solidarity with what's going on out here with Standing Rock.
So, like I said, my name is Chris Turley. I'm Osage. I'm from Pulaski, Oklahoma. I came in here to Standing Rock in solidarity of show my support with Standing Rock and their struggle against no DAPL. I'm a veteran of the United States Army. I served in Afghanistan. I was wounded in action. I received a Purple Heart and an Army Commendation Medal of Valor for my actions during that wartime. I'm a father of 3, and I quit my job. I left my family back home, and I came up here. I walked 250 miles before I picked up a ride and finally made it here on time for everything that's going down on December 4th with all the veterans showing up. Like I said, I mentioned before that it doesn't matter how long you served or how long you was in for. Each and every one of us veterans, we rose our right hand and we swore an oath on that flag to uphold it. And it's the oath of the Constitution of the United States of America. We swore to defend and protect it against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And right now, the ones we see are domestic on the other side, are the ones on the other side of that barrier right now, pointing those weapons at, our people, my people, and your people. So the veterans are coming. We will be here this weekend.
It was horrible audio. I apologize
it was
for that. They were making it out at Standing Rock with,
the
in
wind
that
blowing
area.
sideways.
Well, the wind was horrible out there when we did our interviews. We had to use wind.
We had wind screens, and even that wasn't enough. But you have to be really thoughtful of the audio and try to block it with something. But that was horrible. It was really hard to understand what he's saying.
I know, and I apologize profusely. We couldn't really fix that.
Yeah.
But what I wanted you to see was the guy who was with Wes on the day that he arrived, and I told him that Mary was taken to IHS on December 1st, the day before. He meets Chris Turley and Von Bolage, and they tell him they found this 82-year-old lady naked
with her
diaper around her legs, who had been sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
And the day before, they sent Mary and Kathleen on that pretext to IHS.
Yeah.
And it was Sarah Matuzak, the black EMT, former officer, and etc., who told Kathleen that she had been called to her tarpy to check on Mary for a rape.
Yeah.
And Joshua Pepper, the other person I mentioned that I was looking for, was the other medic that wrote a report that was handed to Morton County that was used as a basis to tear Mary away from her family. Was all based on a claim of rape. And let me tell you something. When we were trying to get this story heard by TYT, all of a sudden, there was a bunch of people, right, that called out Kathleen's name for the first time. One of those people that I got really upset about was Chelsea Lyons and Ernesto Burbank and their Muppet video.
Yeah, at Flint.
In Flint, Michigan. These two people that were very closely involved in covering up the crimes of Christina Hollenbeck and Ed Higgins and all of these people in the media, helping them in covering things up in the media for them and making them into heroes in the process. They were using their platform, both relatives in prayers, Ernesto Burbanks from the Flint Wolves Den, as well as Truth Against the Machines, Chelsea Lyons and her connection to Jordan Sheridan of the Young Turks. Okay? Look at what they're doing. They're using those positions of power to speak ill of Kathleen. And what did Ernesto Burbank say in that video? I don't know if you recall, but he tried to cast aspersion on the fact that Kathleen was innocent and that we had proven conclusively. We even had a video of her and her mom at the casino. And Mulaney and Bill Runningfisher, Mulaney had denied that any of the stuff that Bill Runningfisher said was true by this point.
Yeah.
She had admitted that she herself had run into Kathleen and Mary at the casino, and that the stuff about the abuse, I don't know what you're talking about anymore. Like she suddenly had amnesia. Right? And yet, here was Ernesto Burbank maliciously claiming that, you know, it's up for grabs whether or not Kathleen Bennett committed the crime she's accused of, because I have a source from the camp, a very reliable source, who told me it's, and I trust that guy with my life. Well, would that person be your brother?
Yep.
Chris
Turley.
One of the people that was actually, that witnessed an elderly woman by the side of the road with her diapers around her ankle after she was raped. The same story that was told to Wes by Von Balaj and your brother.
Yep.
Would that have been the person that would have swayed you to think that? Because as you can see, they all concocted this false narrative about a woman, an elderly woman with dementia, being raped at the camp together. And they got the hospital and the nurse in the hospital in on it. And they were working directly with the police department because they had these billionaires and these Hollywood people and these people in the media and these celebrities and rich, children of generals saying this lie together, framing an innocent woman and lying. And then they've spent the better part of the last 2 years gaslighting yours truly, my family. It's truly an infuriating realization for me to know that what this man has done, not just to the story, to try to cover up his crime and his involvement with all of these people and his father's involvement. You should be ashamed of it, of course, because it's horrible. But what you should have done is helped at some point, because if you were remorseful and you knew that you did wrong, you should have helped Kathleen. You should have helped her mother. You should have stopped harassing me. You should have stopped with all these lies. And do you know how many days I was exhausted? Because I would have to literally talk to this man on unhinged rants like the ones you've heard for the last 3 shows for hours and hours and hours of my day. And he would do this not only to scare and threaten me along with all of the other people in that crew, that gigantic crew of extras and, these paid protesters, to keep me from doing our job.
Exactly.
To keep me from being able to do the research and the reporting necessary to expose him fully for the corrupt liar that he is. And, it makes me feel abused, exploited.
Yeah.
And I think he took so much of my life, and so did all of his cohorts. How
Yes.
do you feel about it?
Well, it's just a lot of your time. I mean, it's like, and I think it was totally, attempts to divert you, away from what you were onto. You were onto so much that people started coming right at you, left and right, and trying to fill your head with these other things that were very important that they wanted you to cover, or steer you down the wrong path, steer you to the wrong people, deny they had any knowledge of any of the stuff you were bringing up and had evidence for. I believe it was totally a diversionary tactics to get you off the trail that would lead right directly to them.
They also sent people to our home to threaten us, to our house, to follow us. I mean, they definitely deserve an investigation and some form of punishment for their crimes. And again, I would like to remind people that all of the work that we've done as a nonprofit, non-commercial radio station that we run out of a studio in our home. And we've been doing all of this work by ourselves while these people have been trying to suppress it and attack us all at the same time. So please, if you can support the work of the station in any way, go to our website at kppfm.com and donate to support our work. I want to show you a couple more things connected to this Wounded Warrior Project, the veterans and the Veterans Stand, and Wesley Clark Jr.'s little masquerade here. They included a sitting Congresswoman, Tulsi Gabbard, in all of this. And she had to have known a lot of these major players because she was literally hanging out with them and then posted about them and was seen doing, cross-posting messages on Facebook with Ed Higgins and a whole bunch of other people for a long time. So clearly, the persons that could bring the senators out, you saw Christina Hollenbeck in her text with Wes say, I have somebody from Nexus.
Yeah, I have senators.
We can bring the senators for you. They got a lot of people involved. How many of these senators were involved in this, whatever this is? If it's a Russian, some kind of Russian interference, and Putin is trying to help Trump protect his oil infrastructure in the United States, then I would like to know.
Yeah.
I would like to know that, right? Tulsi and how many other Congress people are involved, and to what degree are they involved? Somebody get on that investigation. Remaining Congress members that haven't sold out, could you please look into this? Look into this general, look into his son, look into their connections to these corrupt organizations and these corrupt plans in the past. The way that they've used their celebrity and their name to do so. And check out these Congress members. Well, Wes Tulsi did a speech out at Standing Rock together. And Ed Higgins is right there, so don't tell me you didn't know who he was and thought he was Tiger Swan and was scared for your life the entire time. I don't buy it. Here is a video of Wes and Tulsi talking at Standing Rock. Check out how many people you could see back there that you know.
Look him, recognize him.
They are the violent ones.
Exactly.
The message that Gandhi changed.
You handle that. You handle getting hit and just going down and not fighting back. That's what I'm making sure everybody here understands.
Gandhi taught us. Back up. Let's keep talking to each other here, because I ain't charged. Let's keep talking. Anyone else? Go ahead, sir. Absolutely it did. By us coming, we got the eyes of the world here. We've made this a story. And we've sent a message out to the rest of the United States that we raised a regiment in 2 weeks with no pay on a work week for people to come out and get beaten up.
Nonviolent direct action and prayer.
Yes, ma'am. That is correct. And everybody here better know out in the world that this country is not going to go where people think it's going to go. Amen. It's our country, all of us.
Well, man, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Wes Clark Jr. I'd also like to introduce Representative Tulsi Gabbard. Not really. Not really. No.
Aloha!
Aloha! Mahalo!
Stay!
welcome to all of you again. How many of you were there last night? Most of you. It is a beautiful day, and it's wonderful to be here with all of you, my brothers and sisters, standing with honor and integrity for this most worthy cause. You know, when you take the oath to serve this country, to put service before self, to put the well-being of others before yourself, that is what's happening here. Each of you are recognizing, as the thousands of others are here at Standing Rock, the importance of protecting water and the power that each of us has in our presence and our voices and through our prayers. The changes that have occurred, how this has evolved, the attention that has grown, the awareness that has been awakened in people around what is happening at Standing Rock is the beginning of a powerful movement, of which each of you are playing an incredibly important role. You are showing how you are continuing your service as veterans. While many of you may have laid down your uniform, you have served at different times in our country's past, you are continuing this great service for the protection and well-being of people. It's unfortunate that some in the media and some who are talking about this issue are trying to pit two sides of our community and our country against each other. Those who are choosing to support so-called economic development and jobs, pitted against those who are standing for protecting water. It's a false narrative. It's a false question. Unless we protect our water, there is no economy. There are no jobs. There is no life. This is not the choice that the people here are faced with. This is not the choice that the leaders of our country are faced with. To me, the choice is very simple. You protect water that supports the life of people and the life of our planet. It's as simple as that. So I'm so grateful to be here with all of you, to stand with aloha, in peace, with honor, at the invitation of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe, to be able to support their work in protecting the water here, recognizing that it is a symbol for our need to fight for the preservation of our precious water resources all across this country and around the world. Thank you all so much. Aloha.
So I want to show you a picture of that was posted to Run Tulsi Run. Here it is, by Jai Gabbard, and that is Tulsi Gabbard's brother.
All right.
Could you read that for us, hon?
Yes. Yesterday we met with the chairman of the Standing Rock Tribe, Dave Archambault II, and council member Cody Two Bears. We sat for a couple of hours and learned about the history of the tribe and the current mission we are on. It was an amazing and deeply moving experience. I feel honored and blessed to be part of what will be a turning point for these amazing people here and around the world. Aloha.
Mm-hmm. There is a number of people in that picture. Could you tell me who you recognize?
Is that Shailene Woodley?
That's correct. And of course, there's
Ding, ding, ding.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yep.
Dave Archambault.
Chamble.
And Cody Two Bears.
Cody Two Bears.
I don't know who the other people are.
The other-
I recognize the girl next to Shailene, but I don't know her name.
Mm-hmm.
But here is what I can tell you about this entire operation from what I have been investigating in the Kathleen Bennett case. The way that they were going to make sure that, ensure that the pipeline was built and protected from protesters was to orchestrate a fake resistance that they could control and collapse at whim, and during which they could use as opportunities to run new candidates and put out a bunch of fake, phony shaman, fake Indian people, like literally like Red Wolf Pope that's Chinese, or this lady, grandma, whatever, that is Italian and Chinese. They're not even indigenous people. They're definitely not from Standing Rock or anywhere near North Dakota or Minnesota. But they're the ones that are going to lead this movement for indigenous people of this area. They're the ones that are going to speak for them. And they're going to join together with activists who happen to be associated with terrorist groups that fund Hamas.
Yeah.
Or, that were fundraising for some of the people they were running or that were campaigning that came out of a Standing Rock. They were trying to get funding from people that were unindicted co-conspirators in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Just so happens that they have a bunch of people from Hollywood that have been working on past campaigns in Bernie's groups, like with the likes of Winnie Wong.
Yep, exactly.
And then they went on to work at Standing Rock, but they go all the way back to Occupy because, as I showed you, Winnie Wong was the one that created that whole decentralized, we have no leader activist mumbo jumbo that they've been using to go from town to town committing crimes in every state in America. This is what is happening with these people. And Wes and his dad and these rich people from Nexus and other people, I'm sure, that have funded it from Hollywood have put people in real danger. And there are members of Congress that were just blithely putting their, hat in the ring and using all of these different protests in places like Flint, like Jill Stein did when she went and visited them and gave them visibility, without considering how they're harming the residents of Flint, Michigan in their flop house, which they failed to pay for, where they were squatting. They just harmed they took resources away. These Standing Rock phonies that went down there to the Flint flop house, called themselves the Wolves Den, and paraded around in tiger swan outfits, making a mockery of the real indigenous people of North Dakota, making a mockery of real people that were put in jail and sent to an early grave like Mary Trujillo and Kathleen Bennett.
Yeah.
And there were fake, sold out, corrupt leaders, not just in our Congress, but also in our Indian communities that are real indigenous people, but like Phyllis, LaDonna, Chase, and others willing to sell out their own people for oil profits, for an opportunity for themselves to go on press junkets and travel around Europe and have a little bit more on the cherry on top of the big pile of money they already have, because most of these people are already wealthy. And they just got wealthier off of the exploitation of some of the poorest people in the world. And that is what is so disturbing about this Standing Rock fiasco, if you ask me.
Yeah, definitely.
And I definitely think that it should be investigated by the State Department, by the Department of Justice. I think it should be investigated by the FBI. I hope Bob Mueller calls me, because I think I have some information that you might want to look into that Trump is definitely invested in. And I hope that you were with me on my next shows, because believe it or not, I have so many more recordings where Wes Clark Jr. spills the beans. And here on A Mexican Crossing Lines, I'm going to keep making those connections for all of you too. Thanks for being with us. Good night.